Meeting for March 23, 2009. Would everybody please stand? We'll say the Pledge of Allegiance. We're going to start out tonight's public meeting with a very happy event, and that is we're welcoming the Archbishop Carroll boys and girls basketball teams here tonight. As everybody here probably knows, they did an incredible thing this weekend by winning the state basketball championships, both the boys team and the girls team, which is something that I've never heard of in my lifetime. I understand it has been done before, but I certainly can't recall when. So I'd like to invite my fellow board members to come down to the front area here, and we'll present the proclamations.
Go this way. First, I'd like to invite the girls' basketball team to stand up, please. Ladies, congratulations. Thank you so much. I want to recognize each and every one of you before I read the proclamation, so everyone knows the members of this team, and we won't forget you. It's quite an accomplishment. Mary Barr. Raise your hand, Mary. Jennifer Carney. Caitlin Cole. Megan Creighton. Emily Fazzini. Rianne Fiaschi. Melissa Levy. Mary Kate McCann. Norm McGeever. Holly Mersham. Rachel Pearson. Erin Shields. Carrie Shields. And Shannon Shields. Are you all sisters? Oh my God, what an amazing family. That's wonderful. And then I'd like to acknowledge their coaches who brought them there. Their head coach, Chuck Creighton. Coach, congratulations. Assistant coaches, Renee Shields, Jerry Ollinger, and Jim Corkery. Assistant coaches, you raise your hand. Now, would that be Mrs. Shields of the Shields? Amazing. Wonderful family you have. Quite talented. We're very honored here tonight, and I will read the proclamation. The Radnor Township Board of Commissioners proclaim, whereas this past weekend, Archbishop Carroll High School girls basketball team won the PIAA State Championship title, and whereas this was the first year that the Catholic League teams participated in the PIAA State Championship, and whereas the girls team will go down in history as not only the first Catholic League team to win this title, but also the first girls team in District 12 to win a state title. And whereas they defeated Lampeter Strasburg from District 3, 68-45 to capture Carroll's second state title in only a few days. And whereas through their exemplary coaching and through the hard work and dedication of each player on the girls team, Archbishop Carroll High School will now have the esteemed honor of going down in history as the first Catholic League girls basketball team to win the PIAA State Championship. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Commissioners of Radnor Township does hereby recognize and congratulate the Archbishop Carroll girls basketball team for achieving and earning their new crown as the PIAA AAA State Champs. Resolved this 23rd day of March, 2009, A.D.
Move the approval of the resolution. Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye. Congratulations. May I have the captains of the team and the coach come up? And then the rest of the team, we'd like to all shake your hands. So I will give this to you. And I don't know if anyone's taking a picture, but we'll do it real quickly. And then I would like the girls' team to come and each meet every commissioner. So we'll do this real quick.
Wait, we're not going to leave. We're all getting this picture.
We're all going to get it. Come on, everybody get in.
All right, come on.
I get to place.
Copies for each. Each copies of the rest.
Oh, I don't have. There's only one. No, there's just one up there.
Okay, everybody this way, please. 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Okay, great. I'd like the girls to come up and meet everybody.
I just have one question.
Why did you want O'Hara to win? You wanted O'Hara in the finals, is that it?
I'm an O'Hara girl. Wait a minute.
I have a great basketball pedigree. I went to St. Catherine's of Wayne before Archbishop Carroll, and my sister, who's an Immaculate Heart Nun, scored 27 points a game her senior year. And of course, then the girls didn't cross half court, played defense and offense, and you stayed on your side of the court. But we certainly want to congratulate you. You did an outstanding job. It was great reading about it. I was down in Florida, and my son, who graduated from Carroll in 1961, also graduated from Villanova in '85, called me. We were talking about the Villanova game. He was telling me about Carroll boys winning, and the girls were playing a couple days later, and I read about you when I came back in the paper. I think it's tremendous. The boys roster is Patrick Daly, Jay Donovan.
Why don't you stand, please?
Yeah. Okay. Kashif Fettis,
Show us who you are.
Iwanya Green, G.J. Irving. They're not all here, but when you're Mike Lauer, Trevor McNulty, Ben Mingledo, Vince Mostardi, Mike Payne, Mike, Romance Turner, Andre Wilburn, Bobby Meggs, Franco Palicati, and Jason Williams. And the coach is Paul Wamazuk. You get that anywhere close today? And assistant coaches are Jack Rubano, Eric Riley, Pat Betley, Tori Harrison, Kevin McCarthy, and Dave Thompson. Congratulations. And this is a proclamation for the Archbishop Carroll High School boys basketball state champs. Whereas this past week, Archbishop Carroll High School boys basketball team won the PIAA AAA state championship title. And whereas this was the first year that the Catholic League teams were eligible to participate in the PIAA AAA state championships. And whereas the boys teams will go down in history as the first Catholic League team to win the state title. And whereas they defeated Greensburg-Salem 75-54 at Penn State's Bryce Jordan Center before 8,427 fans to capture Carroll's second state title in only a few days. And whereas, though exemplary coaching and through the hard work and dedication of each player on the boys team, Archbishop Carroll High School will now have the esteemed honor of going down in history as the Catholic League boys basketball team, the first Catholic League boys basketball team to win the PIAA AAA state championship. Now, therefore, be resolved that the Board of Commissioners of Radnor Township does hereby recognize and congratulate the Archbishop Carroll boys basketball team for achieving and earning their new crown as the PIAA AAA state champs. And I'll move second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We'll get a quick picture, and then we'll shake all your hands, right? Let's look at it.
I'm sure. I gotta get my gold. I get the flag.
These guys are tall. We can just stand in front. Yeah, I think we have to be this way. That's right. Okay, this way. 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
You guys have to know they're not here?
And we can even absolve you for staying for the next 3 hours for the rest of the meeting.
Just one other thing, I wanted to acknowledge that Principal Dave Dickens is here in the audience, and that Father Bill Grogan is here in the audience, as well as Athletic Director Fran Murphy, who contacted me today. Thank you very much. Also, the school has invited, I assume this is for everyone, Friday, March 27, 2009 at 12:30 p.m., the school is having a celebration of their triumph, and everyone's invited, so thank you. Thank you for being here tonight. One last thing, under the power that this board has, you have no school tomorrow. Right, right. Okay. Let's see. Okay, going back to the agenda, the second item on the agenda is the minutes of the public meetings of March 5 and March 9.
Move to be approved.
I'd like to move that they be tabled and amended following a review of the videotape. I know that Coretta did as good a job as she possibly could, but there was an awful lot going on, particularly during public participation. And much like you did the last time, Tom, with regard to an earlier meeting, I think we need, in order to do the minutes justice, need to review that tape and amend these minutes. So I would move to table these until we have an opportunity to do that.
Okay.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor, say
Aye.
aye. Aye. Okay. Next is the notice of executive meetings. An executive meeting was held in the Powys Caucus Room in the Township Building prior to the public meeting on March 9, 2009, where real estate, litigation, and personnel matters were discussed. All commissioners were present except Commissioner Herbata. An executive meeting was also held on March 16 to discuss a personnel matter. All commissioners were present except Commissioner Spengler. An executive meeting was held in the Powys Caucus Room in the Township Building prior to the public meeting on March 23, 2009, where real estate, litigation, and personnel matters were discussed. All commissioners were present. Okay. The next item on the agenda is a new place for the benefit of the public. Our new solicitor advised us that we needed to put at the beginning of the agenda an opportunity for public participation as to each specific agenda item. This is in addition to public participation at the end of the meeting. So at this point, I would ask, is there anybody here who intends to participate publicly on any of the agenda items? And if so, please tell me who you are and what items you're here to address. Hi.
You need a mic?
James Schneller. And the items on the agenda, I live in St. David's in Radnor Township.
Was he supposed to,
You can go
is
to
he
the one
supposed to speak about the items?
No, I just want to know, all I want to know is if somebody is here to talk on a specific agenda item, I just want to know
Right.
who you are and what items, and then we'll refer to that when we get there.
I intended to, if the board grants permission, to speak at the public participation section and, if possible, at public safety, and if possible, at the appointment of interim township manager.
Okay? Anybody else here to talk on any particular agenda items?
Yes.
Okay, just tell me what items.
I'm Jennifer Valent, introducing the Jazz Festival.
Okay. Okay. Anybody else here on any particular agenda items?
You have to go to the mic so the public can hear your home.
Well, right now, we're just basically trying to get an idea of who's here to talk on what agenda item. We're not talking substantively.
Diane Edbrill, I'm here to talk about item number 4, public participation re-agenda items, and also at the end of the agenda, public participation.
Okay, yeah. This is a new concept for us. The idea is to identify in advance what items folks want to participate on so that we can be sure to include them. We're still going to have public participation at the end, which is the way we've always had it. Okay?
So am I not commenting on
No, you can
the
now.
current
Yes, you can.
item now? All right.
Yes,
well,
you may.
I guess my concern as somebody who sometimes comes in half an hour late to meetings is what are the consequences for somebody who doesn't get to come up at the beginning of the meeting and say, I would like to speak regarding agenda item number 11 when
The only
board
consequence
gets-
would be if you don't speak before we act, when we get to that point, then we won't know. So the idea was to try to identify in advance the agenda items that people were here to talk about, and the ones that they weren't, we could then move expeditiously through the agenda. That's all.
Okay, but there's no consequence if you can't come in and give
No.
you all a heads up that
Right.
we'd like to speak on a particular
Sure.
item. It's not going to foreclose our
Correct.
opportunity to do so.
That's correct.
Okay, then the other thing I would suggest as well is, when feasible, if you can post the agenda on the website, maybe, at the start of the business day on the Monday of the meeting, that certainly gives everyone an entire business day to take a look at the agenda and send an email saying, I would like to participate, and then you guys actually have, I think, a more meaningful time frame to sort of address that in and, get your agenda items, ordered.
That's a good idea.
That's it.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Tom, I don't understand this concept.
Okay.
I mean, I understand the concept. If
John,
you want to
can
let
you
people
explain
talk
this?
Yeah,
before
let
the
me,
meeting.
let me explain, because this was my suggestion. Under the Sunshine Act, there's got to be public comment on any item that the board acts officially.
You mean there has to be an opportunity for
There
public
has to be an
comment?
opportunity before you vote. So if you put it at the end of the agenda, you've already voted on most of the items on there, the introduction of the ordinances. The public has to have an opportunity. It's relatively specific, so if you put it at the head of the agenda, just on agenda items only, you will find what you found out tonight. There's 4 people or 5 people that want to talk about specific agenda items, not at that time, and then when the chairman gets to that item on the agenda, those folks, before the vote is taken on that item, will get a chance to comment. I mean, otherwise, the voting's all done. If it's just left at the end of the agenda, the public needs to comment before you actually vote officially on any official item.
Well, John, we do that at the meeting. We say, does anybody wants to speak to this before we vote? Can't we just do that?
You could do it. You could do it that way, but then you're going to stop after every agenda item when it's obvious. At least from the last meeting I was here, that most of the items on your agenda there was no public comment. It also gives you an idea of how many people want to speak on a particular item. It's fairly common practice in most municipalities where there is a front-end opportunity to comment and then on the back end.
Yeah, but we're not giving them a front-end opportunity to comment. All we're saying is, do you want to comment later on?
Right,
Now,
right.
Well, that's
you-
not a front-end.
But you've also then met your requirement for the items that you're going to vote on that nobody wants to comment on. So you have to do that also. There's a requirement that there be public participation or an opportunity for public comment on all items that you're going to vote on, whether someone wants to talk about those items or not. So by doing it at the front end, you've met that obligation under the Sunshine Act. And a lot of your items on your agenda, you're not going to have any public comment on. You'll be able to go through those quicker. You won't have to stop and ask for public comment on things that people are not here to comment on. And if someone comes in late, I think there was a suggestion made, there's time at the end to also comment on anything, including agenda items. That's up to the chair to decide that.
Just so,
Yeah,
Tom,
sure.
Yes, you should.
What?
No, I think actually, if I understood Mr. Rice correctly, I think it's not what I said. If somebody, there's no sense in somebody commenting at the end of the meeting regarding a matter that's been voted on already.
Correct.
And-
But you still would have the opportunity to comment at the end of a meeting. If you're not here, say on the second agenda item, the board is going to vote on that if someone's not here or comes late. The board would still have to vote on
John, I think what
that.
Diane's concerned about is if she arrives late and isn't here for item 4 and she wants to comment on item
11,
11.
right.
And so how does she accomplish that if she hasn't been here to put
Raise
her
your
name on the
hand.
list to talk about item 4?
I think generally the chair says, is there any public comment on this issue? And we allow public comment before we vote.
I'll comment on this. There are actually a lot of things on the agenda that are pretty mundane. We're approving, I don't have any examples this meeting, but there are times when we motion, we second, and normally you allow for board comment first and then public comment. We generally don't see anyone interested in commenting on lots of issues. So we move right from the board comment to the vote. I think this does give us an opportunity to know if there's anyone here that's interested in commenting on specific items. It's
Here's
not
the
in lieu of,
bottom
it's
line.
not-
As far as I'm concerned, I'm not going to try to stifle public comment. The idea here, it was Mr. Rice's idea, was to try to get a sense ahead of time as to what agenda items folks here were wanting to talk on, and make sure we included that. I will ask for public comment as we go through the agendas. I think what we were trying to do, for example, when we get to these public safety items, where you talk about the staff traffic committee report, the ordinances regarding the different speed limits, traffic zones, and things like that, which typically we don't get public comment on.
No, I understand that there's some benefit to the board knowing ahead of time whether there's any interest on the part of the public to make comment on the item. I guess my concern is that I think, though I'm sure it's not, the intention, I think that it's a little confusing. I mean, I'm sitting here being a little confused, and and I think the effect of that might be that people are going to think if they don't have the chance to get here at the start of the meeting and say, I want to be heard on item number whatever, then number one, they're not going to get up and be heard because they think that their opportunity to have,
Right. I hear
put
you.
their name on the list has lapsed. And number two, I mean, we don't just get up here and talk for the purpose of putting something, out there in front of the public. I mean, sometimes that's part of what our goal is, but I think very frequently we're up here, in an effort to persuade you all to vote a particular way on something. And so the fact that later we're going to have an opportunity to comment on something that's already been done is sort of rings a little hollow. And I guess though maybe that's all the Sunshine Law requires, I don't think it's particularly great governance.
Here's what we're going to do. We're just going to ask people to comment, and Tom will write down who wants to comment. And he'll call on those people first. Anybody else can comment on whatever they want, anytime they want, on any issue. Okay?
Okay.
All right, that's
All
all we're
right,
doing.
well,
We're just,
then it's really not
the solicitor said
changing
because
it.
of
It's just
Sunshine
adding
Law.
something at the beginning.
It's just
Correct.
adding a little more
Right.
structure and
It's
organization
just,
to the process.
Tom wants to know who wants to speak, so he makes sure that he gets those people an opportunity, but on any issue, anyone can speak before we vote.
You can walk in 30 seconds before the issue and come up and talk. If you miss the opportunity to say you're going to talk on it, that's not a problem.
Good. I just wanted to clarify that because that was not clear. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Okay.
This young lady has her hand up. You want to come to the mic? No. You can't speak for the audience. People at home can't hear you, I'm sorry.
She's here for the National Transplant Assistance Fund proclamation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Here for item number 6. I'm Lynn Sampson. I'm here.
Okay.
Yes,
That's
okay.
fine.
all right.
Is there somebody, are you here on number 5, the National Transplant Assistance
Sorry,
Fund?
number 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, why don't we just move to that item at this point? Mr. Fisher?
Thanks, Tom. The Board of Commissioners of Radnor Township proclamation for NTAF Community Heroes Day. Whereas the National Transplant Assistance Fund and Catastrophic Injury Program, NTAF, is a 501c3 nonprofit organization founded in Radnor Township in 1983 and has been serving patients in Radnor Township along the main line and nationwide for more than 25 years. And whereas the NTAF has a mission to help transplant patients and individuals living with catastrophic injury afford critical but uninsured medical expenses by helping to organize, launch, and sustain community-based fundraising campaigns. And a secondary mission to educate the local and national public about the importance of organ tissue and marrow donation, as well as to raise awareness about catastrophic injury, including spinal cord, brain trauma, and burns. And whereas to commemorate Donate Life Month, NTAF hosts a community luncheon each April, free and open to the public, to celebrate individuals and the local community who have made significant and lasting impact on their lives of transplant patients and individuals living with catastrophic injury, reinforcing the overall mission of the NTAF. And whereas on April 2nd, 2009, from 11:30 a.m. to 1:15 p.m. in the Radnor Financial Center atrium, the NTAF will honor 6 residents of Radnor Township with the NTAF Community Hero Awards. And whereas the NTAF will recognize community heroes Holly Amsterdam of Radnor for her selfless decision to become a plasma and bone marrow donor, twice saving a life, Gary Rathsmill of Wayne for his participation in a series of local bone marrow donor registration drives in support of NTAF's Save a Life initiative, which was integral in registering nearly 300 local community members to the National Marrow Donor Program Registry of Donors, as well as Fran Grossman, Murray Grossman, and Bill German of Wayne, and Kathy Early of Ardmore, co-founders of the Katie Sampson Foundation that orchestrates an annual youth lacrosse festival in Radnor each April to raise money for uninsured medical care through NTAF, as well as spinal cord injury research and quality of life programs for individuals living with spinal cord injury. And whereas the Radnor Township takes great pride in recognizing individuals who contribute in a meaningful way toward a better and more productive society. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Commissioners of Radnor Township does hereby proclaim Thursday, April 2nd, 2009 as NTAF Community Heroes Day, and encourages everyone to attend the luncheon to support the NTAF and the honored residents of Radnor Township. Resolved this 23rd day of March 2009.
Move the approval?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I just want to, I can't face both ways. It's kind of tough.
Where's the hand mic?
Oh, that's what I'll do. That's all right, don't worry about it. I just want to thank the commissioners for declaring April 2nd Community Hero Day for NTAF. And I hope that everyone will come to our community luncheon at the Radnor Financial Center, where we will be presenting awards to these 6 people who have selflessly made lasting impressions and impact in the catastrophic and transplant community. And because there's been particular interest, particularly among students, I just wanted to introduce and recognize Holly Amsterdam, who will be receiving one of our awards, and has twice given her marrow to save a 16-year-old girl with leukemia. So I hope everyone will consider joining the registry, come out for the luncheon, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the proclamation to Cabrini College regarding the Woodcrest Mansion. Mr. Hervada.
Yeah, well, it was a very special day on December 30, 2008. The Woodcrest Mansion at Cabrini College was placed on the National Register of Historic Places. It's not a very easy thing to do. You have to have serious historical significance, and we certainly have a lot of it in Radnor. And I'm going to read this proclamation regarding Woodcrest Mansion, and I promise it's not as long as the last one. Whereas on December 30th, 2008, Woodcrest Mansion on the Cabrini College campus was proudly placed on the National Register of Historic Places, and Woodcrest is one of the finest and best preserved examples of the Tudor revival style of early 20th century mansions that once dominated Philadelphia's main line. And whereas in honor of the historical significance out of the obvious respect Cabrini College has exhibited towards the property's century-old heritage, especially during its 50th anniversary celebration, and throughout years of fine stewardship, Cabrini College has respectfully maintained and honored the mansion's architectural integrity, size, and richness of its construction by its original architect, Horace Trumbauer. And whereas the historical designation furthers Cabrini College's pledge to remain a good steward of this great heritage. Now, therefore, be resolved that the Board of Commissioners of Radnor does hereby recognize and commend Cabrini College for its effort of preserving such an architecturally significant part of our community's history, which now proudly nationally recognized on the Register of Historic Places, resolved this 23rd day of March 2009.
Move the resolution.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Resolution passes. Is there anybody here?
Yeah.
Enrique, over this way. The picture right here. Howard, I would like to recognize two other people who really did the lion's share of the work on this, and it's Beverly Barnes and Martha Dale. If you could please step forward. Yeah, I would just like to thank the Board of Commissioners for this recognition. It's not only a great moment for Cabrini College, but it is also a great moment for the heritage of Radnor Township. Thanks again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next is the announcement of the 2009 Land Rover Mainline Jazz and Food Festival. Good evening.
On behalf of myself, Jennifer Baylor, and my partner, Laura Munich, of the Main Street Festival Management and the WBA, the Wayne Business Association, I'd like to share our vision for the 6th annual Land Rover Mainline Jazz and Food Festival, to be held on Saturday, June 13th from 4 to 9 on North Wayne Avenue, from Lancaster to West Avenue. It's the only block party of its kind along the main line and has attracted thousands of guests in past years. The focus is mainly food and jazz with a new twist this year. The main stage event will be starting in the late afternoon into the evening under the stars, under the lights. North Wayne Avenue will be transformed into a European-style piazza with all of the restaurants on the street extending their seating outside. Festival goers can relax and dine in the cool of the evening to really enjoy the fantastic jazz lineup. We will be introducing the Bistro Jazz Lounge for VIP seating, with the proceeds benefiting the Radnor Fire Company. The Wayne Arts Center may be hosting the inaugural Wayne Arts Center Arts Festival, with the artists from all over the country displaying their work throughout the day and into the evening. The addition of the Arts Festival is a natural progression, making a more refined backdrop for our fabulous restaurants and musicians. The event will be featured in Mainline Today magazine, Philadelphia magazine, with a huge web presence. Some area restaurants participating include Christopher's, Teresa's Next Door, The Boathouse, Mim's Food and Drink, Elegance Cafe, with Tac Paparillo and Land Rover Mainline returning as our title sponsor. We respectfully request the board to initiate and approve the resolution in order to file our application with PennDOT for the street closure.
And what is the date?
June 13th.
Okay. Anything else you want us to know?
Just some changes in the past years. We've always had it on Sunday, and we've decided that Saturday would probably be a better fit to attract more people. We also have decided that we're kind of over the 125-degree weather we've had every year, so we'd like to move it into the evening a little bit more. We will be ending the music outside at 9 p.m., so there is, some concern about noise later into the evening. We have a letter from the WBA stating the approval of all of the downtown businesses which have been canvassed in order to close on Saturday, because that was some concern.
Okay.
And if we could add, we've gone door to door and spoken with the restaurant proprietors, and they're very enthusiastic about moving it into the evening as they feel that it will enhance their natural traffic when we have the influx of people coming to listen to the music. It's a natural progression for them to then move and perhaps enjoy some food and drink at the restaurants that are featuring alfresco dining in the area.
Okay, thank you. Any board questions at this point?
No, I'd like to make a motion that we accept the
That's gonna
request
be-
for the street.
That's going to be on
Closure?
public safety. We'll do that.
Oh, okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Next is the Wayne Business Association update.
Good evening. I'm Diane Droley, President of the Wayne Business Association, and thank
Good
you for
evening.
having us here.
You're welcome.
We'd like to inform you of what we're doing to add to the Radnor community. First, I would like to also invite all of the commissioners and the staff to our annual award dinner, which is Thursday, April 16th at 5:30 p.m. at one of our new members, the Paddock Restaurant. This is an annual award dinner where we give out a Lawrence T. Adelberger Award, which is exemplary service to the community, and also a Benjamin Wilson Award, which is another award to the community, exemplary member of someone who's volunteered a lot of time to the community. And we also have our installation dinner that evening, which we will install our two new members of our board, who are all volunteers, by the way. The next event coming up that we're sponsoring personally is it's the first Friday in May, and it's the Mad Anthony Days of Wayne. And the dinner is Friday night, and it's held at the Saturday Club, which will be transformed into the Eagle Tavern circa 1855. Our historical and hysterical colonial dinner will have historical actors, including Mad Anthony Wayne. We'll have tavern keepers and colonial dinner, authentic colonial dinner with 13 toasts, because apparently the more the toast, the better the luck you have in the colonial times. It's a very good time. And anybody who's interested in that can just go onto the Wayne Business Association website and order tickets, or go to the antique store. They're selling tickets there. Saturday and Sunday are free to the families and anyone. We're going to have sword fighting and a puppet show, much like we've done the previous 2 years, on Luella Court. And many of the restaurants are going to be doing colonial dinners. On Sunday is a graveside memorial for General Anthony Wayne at St. David's Church. The next topic is our favorite, parking. And I just want you to know that we are continuing our discussion with the restaurants on North Wayne Avenue in terms of the valet parking. One of the solutions that they have found to be very successful, however, it's very expensive. And they've informed me that they plan on discontinuing it. So the WBA is, some of our members, board members, are meeting with Dan Malloy and some of the staff to try and figure out ways to get this continued, because it's very, very popular with the community. And the last but not least, I did have a poster for the Mad Anthony Wayne. I don't know if they want to show that. Put in there. Were interviewed by Chester County Life magazine in their March-April issue. And if you haven't seen it, there's a 6-page spread on Wayne. Should I show this for the camera?
Sure.
And it starts with some of our board members and some of our very prominent members who are what we consider anchors in the town. the Wayne Hotel, the movie theater, and various other locations. And these are some of our board members. And
You want to
we...
move it? See where it is? You want to move it in the center?
Oh, sorry.
Sorry. Good.
Go. Should I show you the cover of the magazine so you know what to look for on the stand?
Sure.
Chester County Life magazine. And it's their March and April issue. And it's a very wonderful spread with Valley Forge Military Academy, and we were all interviewed about it, Wayne Arts Center, and just some of the landmarks that Wayne has. So that's that.
You can show your poster, too, if you want.
Poster time. Thank you. The most fun, I have to say, is the Colonial Dinner, Saturday night. That has been a big success.
What's the date of that?
It is
May 1st,
Friday,
2nd, and 3rd.
May 1st,
Okay.
in conjunction with one of our first Fridays at the Saturday Club. Perfect venue. They donate the space to us. It's just wonderful. And the routines, the theater group is absolutely just inspiring. It's a great time. So
And
you're all
costs and
invited.
tickets are,
$50.
where do you get them?
At the Antique Store in Wayne. Thank you. Any questions, comments?
No, thank you.
We'll keep you posted on the parking. We're still working on that. And it's a big endeavor, as you know.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next item on the agenda is the departmental reports.
Will they be accepted?
Second.
All those in favor?
I have some questions. on-
Sorry, any questions?
I have questions. I'll start with the disbursements list. It says between February 1st and February 28th.
Kevin, can you cover that under finance and audit?
I can cover the whole thing on the finance if you prefer.
Okay, yeah, why don't you do that?
That's
please?
fine.
Other than that, any questions on the departmental reports? They've been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Next is the committee reports. Before we get to that, I'd like to move up on the agenda an item under Personnel Administration, namely Resolution 2009-18, the appointment of the interim township manager. Do I have
I'll make a motion to approve.
have a second?
Second.
At this time, I'll entertain board discussion. Resolution 2009-18 is a resolution to appoint as an interim acting township manager John A. Granger, who is currently serving as the township manager in Solbury Township. Mr. Granger has been a leader in local government in this area for about 30 years. He has served in leadership positions in Salisbury Township, Abington Township, Bristol Township, Talminson, and Solbury Township. He and Solbury Township are operating so efficiently now that the Board of Commissioners of Solbury are willing to lend him to us for a period of time to help us during this transition. He's going to be working as a consultant here at $100 an hour. And at this point, I'll open it up to any board discussion.
Well, Salisbury Township is lending, but he's still going to be working a couple days a week in Salisbury Township and 3 days a week here.
Yeah, he's going to determine exactly how he's going to break up his time once he's had a chance to spend his initial time here in Radnor Township. Obviously, he's here tonight, and the board is free to ask him any questions. We've interviewed him twice, as you know.
I'd actually like to ask John to step up to the podium and introduce yourself to the community.
While he's doing that, can I just ask a question? Are we going to move forward with advertising in the municipal managers organization circular for recruiting of a manager, or are we going to hire a consulting firm for recruiting?
We're going to continue to talk about that. My personal thought was, as soon as we get John on board, solicit his input on the best way to move on to the permanent manager search. As we've discussed, we've been solicited by a number of different organizations who would like us to hire them to facilitate the search. We've also been contacted by a number of individuals who would like to have the opportunity to facilitate the search. My thought was, once Mr. Granger has a chance to spend a little bit of time here and get to know our situation, we could use his experience to help us determine the best way to go to the next decision, which is to find the permanent manager. Good evening.
Good evening.
How are
Thank
you?
you. Fine, thank you.
Good to see you. Anybody on the board have any particular questions that they would like to ask
John,
Mr.
I think
Granger?
it's probably a good idea if you just briefly, we all know you, we've interviewed you twice, but just briefly explain your credentials, your background, so the folks here have an understanding of what you've done in the past and what you're going to help us do going forward.
Sure. I've been in the city management profession for more than 30 years. I have a master's degree from Penn State and a bachelor's from Temple. Currently work in Solebury Township, which is in central Bucks County. If you can find New Hope on the map, Solebury is next to New Hope. In my career, I've helped the communities I've worked in bring in about $80–90 million worth of other people's money into the communities. I have received 40 or 50 national, state recognitions for some of the work I've done, mostly in the communities I've worked in. I find this is a unique opportunity. I have a fair amount of vacation time, so I would be using my vacation time in Solebury to work here. I don't believe that an interim manager needs necessarily to be here on a full-time basis, because your full-time manager will have vacation and sick leave as well, so he won't be here 40 hours a week, 52 weeks of the year. My efforts will be I'll be here tomorrow and Thursday and Friday this week, and by end of Friday I'll have a pretty good idea of how many days a week I would need to be here. I estimate it'll probably be initially somewhere between 30 and 50 hours a week. I realize that there's more than 8 hours in a day and more than 5 days in a week, so I would be working later in the evenings some days and also on weekends. But I suspect that as time moves forward, that my time required here will be less. But again, until I'm here and can understand the situation a little better, I won't really know the answer to that question.
Okay. Any other board comment or questions?
Yeah, and in helping us find a manager, you haven't ruled out the possibility that you might apply for the position.
I will not apply for the position.
You will not apply for
I will not. I like Solebury a little bit too much.
Okay, thank you.
Well, we're glad to have you.
Thank you.
Thank
I
you for
appreciate the
accepting the
opportunity to work with you all.
And in trying to move forward to find a permanent manager, I know when we hired Bob Crawford, we got the community involved, legal voters and other groups involved, and I think that that would be a very good process if we open it up publicly, get the community involved in the selection process of the manager.
There's a number of ways to do it, and I think you have an opportunity here to take some time and make the right investment.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any public participation at this point? Seeing none, all those in favor of the resolution say aye.
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 Any opposed? Congratulations, Mr. Granger.
Thank
Welcome
you.
aboard.
Appreciate the opportunity.
You're going to stay for the rest of the meeting, right? Okay, right. You're officially on the clock. Moving on to the next item on the agenda is the committee reports under community development. Mr. Hervada. I'm sorry. That's you, right?
That's me.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
It's okay.
Call me off
We
guard.
can switch if you want.
Yeah, no, you used to be.
Yeah,
Okay.
All right, I'll take care of it. First item on the agenda, A, is the application of T-Mobile regarding the use permit to install cellular facility on Pico Pole at Sproul Road and Bryn Mawr Avenue. And I assume that there's representatives from T-Mobile here that would like to speak to this application. Mr. Petrosa?
Good evening. My name is Don Petrosa. I'm an attorney representing T-Mobile. With me this evening are Doug Cowan, who is a zoning manager for Site Acquisition Services, which is an authorized agent for T-Mobile, Eric Ritter of CMX, who are the project engineers, and Bassem Iskander, who is a radio frequency engineer. T-Mobile is proposing to install a wireless communications facility within the right-of-way of Sproul Road on the east side of Sproul Road, about 445 feet south of Bryn Mawr Avenue. There's an existing Pico guy pole at that location, and we're proposing to replace that with a wooden utility pole that will be a Pico pole, and will also have T-Mobile's antennas and related equipment located on the pole. There's no equipment that would be on the ground at all. It's all on the pole. It's sort of a microcell type of facility with smaller equipment than you're used to seeing on these facilities. The Township zoning ordinance at section 280-165 permits wireless communications facility within rights-of-ways attached to utility poles, light poles, mast arms, or other structures in all zoning districts upon the issuance of a use permit by the Township. Typically, and under the code, use permits are normally issued by the zoning officer. But we filed our application on July 30th, 2008 for the use permit, and sometime thereafter we were advised that staff had determined that we should come to the Board of Commissioners to make a presentation. We did come before the board on October the 13th and made a full presentation. Subsequent to that, we were directed to the Citizens Communications Council, and we appeared before them on two occasions, first on January 21st and then again on February 18th. And I'm pleased to report that at the February 18th meeting, the council voted unanimously, I think it was 6-0, to recommend approval of the application for use permit. So we are here seeking your approval, your authorization of the issuance of the use permit by the zoning officer. And we're available to answer any questions you might have.
I have one question since it's my ward. I do recall asking you to meet with the Homeowners Association of Cornerstone, and I believe you did do that.
We did. We met with them in October of 2008. That was about 2 weeks after the commissioners' meeting on October 13th and before we went to the Citizens Communications Council.
And they seemed to be okay with that?
They did. They did not raise any objections to my recollection. Two of the people that were with me are here this evening, and in fact, most of the discussion centered around the issue of whether or not it would be possible to build a wireless communications facility in their open space so that the Homeowners Association might derive some revenue from that. But unfortunately, under the zoning ordinance, it's not permitted. That's a R1 density modification zoning district, and new cell towers are not permitted there. There's different set of standards under the ordinance for facilities within the right-of-way and for facilities outside of the right-of-way. We would have been happy to accommodate them if we had been able to.
Any board
How much is
questions?
the use permit?
I'm sorry?
Did you pay yearly fee or one fee?
The ordinance says it's a $100 fee. I think it may be $100 a year, as I read it. It's in the township's fee resolution. I think it may be $100 a year.
What's the, do we have an idea what the total height is on this installation?
Yes. Is that Mr. Fisher?
Yes, sorry.
That was, the total height is 67 feet from ground level to the very top of the antenna.
But the antenna's not 67 feet. That's
It's
the
on top of the pole.
It's a flush-mounted antenna that sits right at the top of the pole. Everything is painted brown to match the color of the pole, including the little equipment boxes that are located on the pole.
What is the height of the pole then without the antenna?
It would probably be, there are two sets of antennas. There are actually four antennas, two this way and two this way, and they're stacked on top of each other. So I would subtract roughly about 8 feet from that.
And was any relief granted by the zoning hearing board in order to do this installation?
No, in my opinion, no relief is
No
necessary.
relief needed? And did all the neighbors, I don't know what the requirement is it 500 feet?
I don't think there's a specific requirement for an application for a use permit, but we did communicate with Lisa's help with the homeowners association's governing body. These were people that were on the council, and they had several of them there, 4 or 5 or so, and they indicated that they would communicate with other members of the association. Cornerstones is really I don't want to say the only residential, it's not the only, but it's the closest by far residential property. Across the street is Montgomery Nurseries.
Were they given notice and opportunity to speak on this issue?
I don't know. I don't know. I know someone from Montgomery Nurseries was out there the day we met with the homeowners association, was in the field.
Any other board questions?
I would make a suggestion that one of my concerns with this is that because it doesn't require, because it's not construction that requires the typical process and the notification process that's required, I hope that this would have been communicated well to the neighbors. And it sounds like you did take some important steps there to communicate with the association. My only concern is that other neighbors that are within 500 feet to 1,000 feet of that pole are not aware that it's going to go in. I don't know how the board feels about that, but I think this is a new chapter for communications, really, in the township.
Just for what it's worth, as I indicated, the pole in question is about 445 feet south of Bryn Mawr Avenue. So other than Cornerstones, there aren't any other neighbors within 500 feet on that side, and really on the other side. It goes for some distance. And directly across the street is Montgomery Nurseries. I'm sure there probably are a few neighbors, somewhere in there within that. But we did make an effort.
Let me just add, is there anybody here in the audience that is here to speak on this application regarding T-Mobile?
Are we moving the approval this evening?
I would hope so. We've been at this for about 8 months, I guess.
Well, I think since you've been to the Commissioners, made a presentation, you've been to the Cable Communication Council twice, those meetings are all televised, and now you're back here again, I would like to move the approval.
And I will say that I did, Mr. Preserza, I contacted the homeowners association, and they did get together and corresponded even by email with different members of both your group and their group. And I recall some neighbors within the email thread saying that they were looking forward to having the tower because their T-Mobile coverage there was a black spot. So, I think you did, reach out, and I don't know what more we can really do to inform them.
Okay.
Second motion.
Do we have one last question? I don't have a document in front of me. I know we were provided copies of this application in the past. Have there been any changes to the application since you first came in?
No, sir.
Okay.
I think, is there a member of the public that wants to speak on this?
I'm sorry to have not announced this.
That's all right. No problem.
My name is Jim Schneller. I'm not a neighbor of the project, however, I'm a frequent visitor to the area, and I think it's a township-wide issue. If I could say 2 things, which I had said at one of the hearings, I believe the first hearing last year, was that, well, I'll say the second point first, is that at that point there were rumblings about renaming the Cable Council. I don't have the name right, obviously, the Citizens Cable Council, and it was wonderfully renamed to cover things besides cable TV, and I was hoping the board might consider in the long run putting this kind of project under their auspices for initial review. Second of all,
They were here twice.
no, I mean, if they continue to arise, it's feasible. I mean, with developments in communications like this, it's feasible they could want to sprout one every quarter mile. We don't know, and it would be nice to have an initial reviewing body before they come here for final vote.
Well, they did. They were there twice, and we will send everyone back there. Anyone that comes in and requests this, we're going to send them to the Communications Council for recommendation.
Yeah, it could just get time consuming. You know, if they, or is it under your auspices really?
Well, we have to
worth your
prove it,
time?
so, yeah.
Well, that was the purpose. One of my goals was to rename the Cable Council the Citizens Communication Council,
Right.
so that they would have the purview of these new antenna installations. We wanted to give these types of applications a chance to be vetted in the public more often than less. And when it gets to this stage, you know, I don't see any glaring reason to deny this. And as long as it's been to the Citizens Communication Council, as long as it's been to zoning, and it's been vetted through the public process, I feel that the public has had a chance to respond to this
Absolutely.
installation. And I hope that's where we're at. I don't see anyone here in opposition to this.
Sounds like
Although,
per se.
I mean, they might, being the more electronically oriented, they might in the long run be able to add some perspective. And the second item was, and something I raised explicitly either here or at the the next T. I forget which folks these are, but the fee in one of these cases. These folks, I guess it was next T, was negotiated in the contract, and I objected strongly because it was a fee similar to $100. These people are getting access to the Blue Route at this spot. They could pay 10 times that much and they'd pay it. I don't want to be a business consultant, but if we had a policy from now on, or even retroactively for any other facilities like this, Township would benefit upwards of 50 grand, at which point it'd be feasible. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. I think it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay.
Can we, Tom, can I have the floor for a second? There's, regarding this subject, there was a lot of discussion about the township possibly putting some cell towers in some of our public parks. And a company wanted to go to zoning and see if they could get zoning, and we're interested in putting some towers in, I guess, the Willows and Ithan Valley Park. And this, they basically asked us if we would be interested in that, and I think this board unanimously told them that we have no interest in putting any cellular equipment in any of our public parks. There's a fine line between providing all the communication and Ethernet and high-speed data to all our residents and protecting our open space in our parks. And I think that, you know, like I said, it's a fine line, and where everybody wants all these services and they want to be able to have wireless internet access and high-speed cable and HD TV in their home, we have to try and keep a balance. And you know, this board, I'm happy to say, unanimously decided we have no interest in putting any equipment in any of our public parks for any kind of fee. Where some people do it on private property, that's a different story. But the township decided we didn't want to do that, and I just wanted to clear that air because there's been rumors and discussions that the township's going to put a cell tower in the Willows, and this board unanimously is opposed to anything like that.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to move something else up on the agenda, and that is the authorization for an Eagle Scout project. I see we have our prospective Eagle Scout in the audience here, and my guess is he's got other things to do than wait around for us to get to his part of the agenda. So I'd like to ask you to introduce yourself, please, and tell us what we can do to help you. I'm sorry.
My name is Bald Heldring, and I'm from Troop 219 from St. Catherine's Church. And for my Eagle project, I've talked with Mr. Blumstrom about it. On South Devon Avenue, there's a pathway. It's just a dirt pathway going up from the road to the bike path. It doesn't really seem safe. If it rains and it gets slippery, people can fall on it, slip. So what I've proposed to do is build steps up to that pathway from the road. I was thinking of starting in July. I don't have a lot of time in the spring. Most of the kids in my troops are around in the summer. It doesn't seem like a lot of kids will be on vacation during that time, so I think I can get a lot of help that way. Safety, I'm going to have adult leaders there, first aid kit. It's not a project that's going to be that unsafe. It's a pretty simple project. So far, the details that I have for lumber. Mr. Blumstrom and I went it down, and we kind of eyeballed it and said that it'd be by at least 2x4 lumber, but I'm going to also measure it further to see the exact measurements for it.
So is this where there's now a kind of a well-worn path coming up from the sidewalk on South Devon up that little hill?
Yeah.
Up onto the trail? And you want to put steps
That's right.
in there?
Yeah, that's where I'm going to plan on putting steps.
And you're from Troop 219, is
Yes.
that right? Who's the scoutmaster there?
Mr. Madrinsky, John Madrinsky.
Okay. All right, that's great. Any questions from the board?
Sounds great.
Any questions from the public?
Thank you.
Hearing none,
Thank you.
we're all in favor of your project. Thank you for bringing it to us, and good luck with it. Can I ask you a quick question? The Levin property, which is where you're going to do this work, over the last few years, we've had different scout troops come in the spring and help do like a community cleanup. Do you know whether there's any scouts in your troop who need community service hours that might be interested?
I actually do know that there's we have a couple kids in our troop that do need service hours. So.
Okay. Who can I contact? Just to organize.
Well, you can contact John Madrinsky. He would definitely know.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay.
Tom, does this need an authorization from us for him to proceed?
Does it?
Move the approval.
Second.
Okay, is that all we need, Mr. Solicitor? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay. We'll move back on to, I guess, community development. Are you good with that?
Yep,
Okay.
thank you.
Next item on the agenda is the introduction of an ordinance regarding off-premise signs, and I don't know if this is going to be taken over by Mr. Loper or our solicitor, since this is...
I think Mr. Rice was going to give us an overview.
Okay.
Thank you. Let me just explain a little bit of background for the board and for the public. On January 5th, the board adopted what's called a municipal curative amendment resolution, which is something that's authorized under the planning code, identifying a possible invalidity in your zoning ordinance. The invalidity which was identified was a lack of any provisions in your zoning code for off-premises signs. Some people call them billboards. It's a type of off-premise sign. I think that the board's aware that some of your neighbors have been subjected to challenges that are playing out now in front of their zoning hearing boards. What was identified in your ordinance is you have no provisions currently. You don't provide anywhere in Radnor Township for any off-premises signs. And you have 6 months from January 5th to do something about it. So what I've been doing over the last couple weeks, along with Mr. Loper and Matt Bauman and the rest of the staff, is trying to craft a zoning ordinance, because we have a very aggressive schedule in order to advertise this, put this through the Planning Commission process, and have it adopted by the first week in June, which is the target date. So what you have in front of you tonight is a draft of an ordinance, which we've been working on over the past week and a half, 2 weeks. And I can just basically summarize. There's two main provisions in this. And I know Mr. Loper has some maps. I don't know whether we want to put those up or not. Well, it might be helpful if the commission wants to see the maps that
It would be helpful to me, because one of the questions I'm going to want to understand is the practical implications of what I'm looking at here. Because I got a yellow line and a red line, and I want to understand exactly the significance of the two.
And just so I'm clear, the bottom line here is we have to pass some kind of an ordinance basically picking our poison, if you will, as to where to allow these things.
Correct.
We can't just outlaw them. We have to allow them somewhere.
Right.
Is that right?
There's a recent 09 Pennsylvania Supreme Court case came out of Exeter Township in Berks County. And that case, and actually the law has been for 30 years that you have to provide off-premises signs in your zoning code. And you managed to dodge the bullet up until now. But I've been through this process in probably 10 different municipalities, and it is a matter of picking your poison. No one in this room would advocate that you permit off-premises signs all over your municipality, but the Supreme Court and the Commonwealth Court has said on many occasions it's a valid business use, off-premises signs, and you have to provide for it. The consequence of not doing that is what's occurring, I believe, in Haverford and a couple of the other municipalities, is that if a landowner has a piece of ground and wants to put a billboard on it and it's not provided for, they win, unless you negotiate something other than whatever the landowner wants. So, and I think that's what's going on now. There's some cases in front of zoning hearing boards, challenges that have been brought, and I have not done a whole lot of investigation with those other municipalities, but by adopting the municipal cure resolution in January, you get a 6-month window to do something, but you have to have a valid ordinance enacted at the end of the 6 months, or you're back to where you were on January 4th with no ordinance. So the remedy when there's a landowner curative amendment is site-specific relief. So the landowner gets to do what they want to do on a piece of ground, and in probably this case would be a 672 square foot billboard is what the industry is looking to put up along the Blue Route and wherever they can put billboards up. So that's the remedy that you're looking at if you don't do something by the drop-dead date that we've identified. So what we did with this, we looked at areas in the township where this would be appropriate. The obvious area would be along the Blue Route. I don't think any of the staff or any of the commissioners that I talked to were comfortable with that, because if you go in that direction, you are looking at probably a 600 square foot traditional billboard type of a structure out there. But the obligation is to provide an off-premises sign, not necessarily the traditional billboard. So we looked at 2 areas. We looked at the Wayne, the WBOD, where you have many signs already. And we also looked at a portion of the C3 zoning district, and Mr. Loper can identify them on the map if he would like to. The portion of the C3 zoning district would be that part of the C3 that has frontage on the Amtrak SEPTA right-of-way line. And the 2 maps that have been prepared by the staff.
And what size signs are we proposing?
The signs that we're proposing are 64 square feet. The court case, the Berks County Exeter Township case, although the ordinance was struck down in that case, they provided a 25 square foot sign in that case in the township along Route 422. And the facts were pretty specific to what happened in that case, but the bottom line was the court said a 5 square foot sign was too small if you were going to permit it along a high-speed highway. So there's a judgment call here. If you provide this use along a place like 422 or the Blue Route or the Schuylkill, they have to be bigger. If you provide them in other parts of your township, they can be smaller. And that's what we're attempting to do here.
It's a function, John, is it not, of the speed of the vehicles, that being if they're on 422 or the expressway, they have to be larger so that it catches the driver's attention going 50 or 55 miles an hour.
Or 70
Whereas,
or 75 or 80 or
or
whatever they're doing along. They're not,
but
that's what the court said.
But in our Wayne Business District, where the speed limit is 25, then a smaller sign obviously would catch a driver's attention just as easily.
Right. And you have pedestrian traffic in the WBOD. And in this case, there was some recognition that a 72 square foot sign would be appropriate in a more urbanized area. So we worked off of that, and I'm comfortable reducing that to 64 because of the nature of the 2 areas that we're talking about. We drove around that whole area and looked at places where this might occur. You have to provide an opportunity. You don't have to require it. You don't have to mandate it. There just has to be an opportunity for this type of a use somewhere in your township, or you risk getting the traditional billboard somewhere where you don't want it. So they're the two areas we identified. The ordinance also has a couple definitional provisions in it. The definition of an off-premises sign is basically a sign advertising a product, service, business, or activity sold, located, or conducted elsewhere than on the premises on which the sign is located. We also provided for, in the ordinance, some other restrictions, such as a 100-foot setback from any residential zoning district. And on the maps that were prepared, there's a setback on the C3 map is the blue line. Right, it's 100 feet. In the C3 district, the blue line is 100 feet. The line between, I guess it's a yellow line that fronts along the SEPTA right-of-way is 20 feet off of the SEPTA right-of-way. And then in the WBOD, there's a 100-foot setback from residential districts. And
Bob, can you hold that spot right there, because I want to ask you this question. I'll ask it. So does this mean that the signs are permissible between the yellow line and the red line?
No,
Okay.
inside the yellow line.
So between the yellow line and
The yellow line. Inside the yellow lines in the WBOD, that whole area.
I'm looking at the
No.
C3.
Right?
Mr. Higgins is looking at the C3
Oh,
map.
I'm sorry.
So help me understand
Yes.
on this map where the signs can go.
Inside the blue line.
Yeah, inside the blue.
Inside the blue, down to the yellow.
So between that sort of bluish greenish line and the yellow line.
Correct.
Now, what's the significance of, there's nothing between the, on different parts of the map, there's nothing between this bluish line and the red line?
The red line represents the outline of the zoning district itself, the border of the zoning district, the C3 zoning district.
And the yellow line is just
And
the
the
20 feet.
blue-green line is the 100-foot setback from the edge of that district. So nothing can go between the red line and the blue line.
That's the 100-foot setback.
So nothing can go between the red line and the blue line?
Correct.
In the R3.
So just within the blue line.
And to take it a step further, Kevin, the middle of the page, red line also represents the border of the C3 district immediately adjacent to the railroad. The yellow line represents a 20-foot setback from the edge of the district paralleling the railroad track. Because it is immediately adjacent to the railroad track, the buffer is less than it is from the residential zoning district.
Okay, just help me understand something, Bob. Can you point your pointer on there for a second, and now go a little bit further towards Pennsylvania Avenue, a little bit more. Okay, right there. Can a sign go there?
Yes,
Okay. Now move it back.
yes, here.
Okay, now go all the way, go back to where you were. And take a stop, and I'll just direct you. Keep going forward out. Nope, the other way. Nope, forward. Up towards C3. Just move it up towards C. Now stop there. Can a sign go there?
No,
Okay.
no.
Inside the blue line.
No, between the red and blue is
Right, the
no
yellow.
man's land.
So it's inside the blue, but what's the significance of, I guess that's just the street? This grayish line where it says Pennsylvania
No,
Avenue?
that's the normal setback, but it doesn't apply there because it's only 20 feet next to a railroad, so that setback doesn't apply because it's not up against a residential area. That's why that line's not blue. But it shows you the setback
So
if
why didn't
it
the
was a
blue-
residential
well-
area.
Okay, why didn't the blue line go all the way, why didn't you continue the blue line out to the yellow line then?
Because it's up against a railroad track and you only have to be 20 feet in a railroad track, so the blue line doesn't apply that stretch. You go to the yellow line.
So right where your pointer is, a sign can go there?
Here,
Yes.
All in there.
yes.
Okay, thank you. I think I got it.
Can I just go over, just so I'm sure about the numbers, not less than 100 feet from a residential district, Has to be at least 10 feet off a cartway? Is that right?
Correct.
Yes, minimum. Cannot be
Minimum,
located in the
yeah.
street right of way.
Right, it has to be
Must
at least 10
least
feet.
10 feet from the cart.
There has to be at least 100 feet between signs, off-premise
Correct.
signs. The sign area can't exceed 64 square feet,
Correct.
and the height of the sign can't exceed 15 feet,
Correct.
and the signs are allowed in the WBOD and also the C3 area, C3 zoning district that has frontage on the SEPTA and Amtrak?
Correct.
Okay, and none of these signs will be electronic? Just kind of going through the
That's
facts here, I'm
correct.
trying
There's
to
the
nail them
language
out.
prohibiting the LED flashing, illuminated type signage.
Okay, just now back to the height, the 15 feet. I assume that means we won't see signs on rooftops?
Correct.
That's correct.
Okay.
15 feet if it's a freestanding sign measured from grade, 15 feet if it's attached to a building or a structure.
Okay, thank you.
Any other board questions?
Are we, John, are we required to do both of these, or are these just options?
Required, what a court would do, tough to tell.
Well, would we comply with your recommendation if we selected one of these two?
I think without doing an analysis of both of the districts, sending somebody out and determining exactly how many of these signs you could put in either one or both of these districts, it's difficult in 2 weeks for me to figure out whether there's enough opportunity in the C3 alone or enough opportunity in the WBOD alone. We actually had some other areas which we looked at. We had a couple other districts, Kevin, that we looked at that we took out of the mix, just based on what was there, what the existing uses are. And again, you've got to provide an opportunity.
So based on your understanding of the facts right now, you think if we ultimately said, yeah, right here, we'd sufficiently comply?
I'm comfortable that that's a defensible ordinance.
Okay.
I think the terminology in the case law, John, and correct me if I'm wrong, is a reasonable opportunity for the placement of these kinds of signs. And if we don't provide that, quote, reasonable opportunity, then we're looking at what's called a de facto exclusion,
right,
which is the hallmark of the unconstitutionality of such an ordinance, which is why they struck down the one in Exeter Township, because 25-foot signs, 25 square feet, were simply not a reasonable approach given where they said you could place the signs. So I think that this appears to be a reasonable approach, and since I was one to raise this thing, I appreciate the fact that you've jumped on this as quickly as you have and answered all of our questions. But I think it's probably a very reasonable approach to pick your poison situation, and I think we should go ahead with it.
Move the introduction.
Move the introduction.
Hold on.
We'll just put it on the table.
The solicitor is signaling over there.
One comment before you vote.
Voting. We were just introducing the ordinance.
Introduction.
Right,
We're just
but-
making the motion in second, then we comment.
We can
Okay.
come.
Okay, go ahead.
Just wanted to slow you down for a minute.
We weren't going anywhere.
Matt Baumann had added a couple other comments to this draft, which I sent out Friday afternoon. So I just want to make sure we have in the minutes a couple of the other comments. We added, and we will add to this, because tonight is just introduction, move it along to the planning commissions, and go through the process under the MPC. We added a definition of sign area, which would be in 280-118, to deal with double-sided signs. And the definition would simply say, where the sign consists of a double face, only one side shall be considered for the purpose of calculating the total sign area, and where both sides are not identical, or where the interior angle formed by the faces of a sign is greater than 45 degrees, all faces shall be considered in calculating total sign area. So he added that, and I'd recommend that that be added to where we were as of Friday. And he also added a sentence to, on page 2, paragraph F, that deals with the V-shaped signs. He revised the second sentence to read, a sign having two identical or different signs back-to-back, or a V-shaped sign with a horizontal angle not greater than 45 degrees is permitted to have a maximum area of 64 square feet on each side for a total maximum area of 128 square feet. We're trying to address either a back-to-back or a V-shaped sign where you have somebody selling something here and somebody selling something here, so that we've got, or maybe it's the same something being sold on both sides of that. So that's what he was trying to clarify in the ordinance.
Well, so is that clarifying language in the draft that we have in front of us?
It is not in the draft, but in terms of what you're doing tonight to just introduce this, you can add that as, I would recommend you add that in order to formally move this along as part of your motion.
I'll move with those two additions. We'll add that to the ordinance.
Second.
Okay, so, Mr. Rice, you're going to revise this draft to incorporate
those two
clarifying
comments.
additions that we just approved.
Correct.
Or that we just introduced.
Correct.
Any other board discussion?
Yeah, one other point, and that is the timing of this. John, you mentioned that you were trying to get this in line to have it approved in early June. I believe in June we only have one meeting, and I believe it's toward the middle or latter part of the month. So I think we should be sensitive to the calendar as to when we have meetings in June, okay?
Well, the schedule that I sent around to the board was that it should be, if everything goes as it should, on your agenda for the day after Memorial Day, which is May 26th.
Okay.
If for whatever reason you can't make that day, it would have to be the first week in June. I think June 5th is a Friday. You'd have to have a special meeting. I think we can do this for your May 26th meeting. It's got to be advertised twice. The first ad's got to go in May 12th. So we're going to take this from tonight to the local planning commission with these edits that I just mentioned. The Delaware County Planning Commission, they have to have it for 30 days before you can validly adopt it. So we're within the time guidelines, but it's pretty aggressive for a zoning amendment, but I don't think you have much choice in terms of dealing with the issue.
Okay. Any other board comment before I open it up to public comment? Any public comment on this?
I'm Kathy Harris of Willow Court. I think you have Willow Court in the business district on this map.
Could you
I
stay
think
up?
you have Willow Court on the business district in this map. No, you don't? Well, if you're planning on putting the signs here, that's still our backyard. Yeah, well, we see, the railroad tracks aren't that big, you know, we see, that's our view from our windows. And the last thing I want to look at is a billboard. I already have the municipal yard. And it's, anything over here, we can see, you know, all the way over to here. And I would want it somewhere further away from residential, because we are residential.
Yeah. I think they're not going to spend a lot of money on a sign just to advertise it to Luella Court. They're going to face it towards Lancaster Pike. Why would you face it towards Luella Court? It doesn't accomplish anything for someone trying to...
Well, if it's facing the railroad track.
Yeah, but the railroad won't be able to see it either because it's set back. So far, you won't see it from the railroad. It's only 15 feet high.
15 feet, only 15 feet high?
Yeah.
All right.
Just one further comment on this is that these off-premises signs can only get approved by going to the zoning hearing board for a special exception. So assuming this gets adopted and passed within the time frames, there's a further review and scrutiny for the neighbors in front of the zoning hearing board with anyone that wants to implement an off-premises sign anywhere in either of the districts. So there's going to be an opportunity to deal with whose backyard is it in, what does it look like, how big is it, and the zoning hearing board's going to have to address it in the context of a zoning hearing board application. So they're not permitted by right. No one's going to walk in the door and have a permit issued for this. There's going to have to be that extra level of scrutiny for this use.
Any other public participation on this agenda item?
Hi again, Diane Udrill. Sorry, I didn't know I was going to talk about this one when the meeting started. I would just like to state that I'm really pleased that we have a solicitor here who is clearly keeping up with current case law that controls townships, across the state of Pennsylvania. That it's clear he made a timely analysis of our situation based on our zoning code and came up with an understanding, based on an understanding of the time frame, a mobilization plan. It provided alternate proposals to the board for action. That it's really refreshing to have a solicitor here who is troubleshooting issues for Radnor Township, and I just wanted to express my appreciation for that.
Well, we appreciate that, but we started on this before he came. He's just moving us forward on it.
Excellent.
Okay.
Good to hear.
Hi, Baron Gemmer, South Wayne Avenue. A couple of housekeeping things in trying to review this very quickly. It appears that in 280, 121, and 122, and 123, there's also references to off-premises signs, and there may be conflicting language, so I think we might need to take a look at that. Secondly, with the definition change of off-premises signs, civic event signs would now fall under this category, and even though they're excluded from needing a permit in terms of where they could be located, so things like the library sale. So I think we need to make sure that is not an unintended consequence of just the slight definition change. The reason that comes out to be is the old definition called off-premises signs commercial, and the definition of civic events specifically said any sign other than commercial, and now it technically would fall under this.
That's a good point, and I'm going to ask you, if you don't mind, follow up. If you want to send me an email tomorrow, I'll send it on
to
the folks in the township staff so that we can make sure we include that. Thanks. Any other public participation on this item?
Jim Schneller, St. David's. I was just wondering, is this a selected C3? Because then I won't have a comment. Would it be a selected one of, this is not the sole C3 zone,
Correct.
but this is the one that, can you,
Because it has frontage on the SEPTA rail line.
I see. So my comment was just about the fact that there's a C3 on Lancaster Pike.
Right, that's not included in this.
Thank you.
It's limited to that. Got to have frontage on the SEPTA rail line.
Okay. Any other public participation on this agenda item? So at this point, we've moved and seconded this ordinance. Mr. Solicitor, you want us to vote on this tonight? Is that correct?
Yes, with the edits, the revisions that I mentioned previously.
The copy I have doesn't have a ordinance number on it. Do we have a number to assign to it?
Once it's advertised and it goes through the process, and it's formally up for advertisement, you'll have a number then.
Okay.
Because you have other ordinances that'll be coming across your desk between now and then.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda, item number C, resolution 2009-15 regarding the Wayne Hotel addition. Is there anybody here on behalf of the applicant for the Wayne Hotel? Hi. Are you in agreement with all of the conditions?
I'm sorry, you got to say that at the mic. Nobody at home will know what you said, so.
Hi, your name?
Joseph Birch?
Okay. You are in agreement with all the conditions that have been placed on you?
Yes.
Do you have a side, Dan? Where's Dan?
Right here.
Dan, is everything in order with you?
Yes, I have a signed affidavit agreeing to the conditions.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Second?
Anybody in the public want to comment on this resolution? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
That concludes community development this evening.
The next item on the agenda is finance and audit. Mr. Higgins?
Okay, I'll start with my first set of questions that I was going to cover under departmental reports, and then we'll come back to the two agenda items. The Radnor Township disbursement list, that's the report I'm looking at, Amy. I just have a few questions on a few of the items. On page 7, can you tell me what 50211 and 50212 are?
Well, I'm on page 7, but why don't you, can you direct me a little bit more to where you're at?
Sure, it says PA Department of Transportation, and it says Razak, Pembroke, North condos.
They were 2 highway occupancy permits, I believe, but with more detail, I'm sure Mr. Hagan or Mr. Malloy might be able to provide some more detail.
That was an inspection fee that PennDOT levied against us since we were the applicant for the sewer line.
Okay.
And that's something that the owner of the building is reimbursing us on.
Okay. The next item down that was payable to Northwestern University.
That was some professional training to members of our police department.
How come it's identified school staff? Was it combined between us and the school
I think it's school for staff and command personnel.
Okay. And then the last item on the page, it says American Legends Photography, Makeup Photos, Basketball.
They were pictures of participants in our Park and Rec basketball program, but Mr. Blumstrom might be able to provide some more detail.
I thought you paid for your own pictures.
No, the pictures are included in the price of registration.
This is the team photo?
Yes.
I got it. Okay. But your individual, we still charge, they still write a check for the individual pictures, correct?
If they want additional
Yes.
stuff.
And then, Tom, you're the sort of the next person, probably best able to answer my question. I know you don't have this in front of you, but I'll ask you sort of a general question. It's on page 13. It says we spent $4,900 approximately to Pico for Sulpizio Gym. Is that an aberration that the bill will be abnormally high that month because of electrical equipment running, or are we going to run $60,000 a year for electrics?
No, I actually called about that to Pico, and it had a direct correlation to do because we went through and looked at the dates on when the gas pipe was capped, and the dates where the spike showed were in direct correlation with the days where we were having like single-digit degree temperatures.
Okay.
And that was the direct correlation of that, and the number has been down
Okay, so it's just
since
an
then.
aberration.
It was a direct result of the exterior temperatures, and they said that they had also received similar calls from people concerned when the bills came in, and they reflected it, and the guy checked the charting.
Okay. And then, Amy, I think this is more of a general question. Starting on page 17, there's a whole series of, looks like if you count them up, 102 payments to the Delaware County Sheriff.
Yes, if you remember, in 2008, we instituted an aggressive delinquent sewer rent program. And after, I believe we made 3 or 4 attempts at communication, there were 102 accounts that we did not hear from property owners. So we proceeded with the next step approved by the board, which was the filing of writs.
Okay, so that's, and then on page 25, just in education, what is an AED? It's associated with Physio Control, Inc. And we spent almost $10,000 on 7 of these.
AEDs, it's a machine, it's an advanced life support system if someone should have a heart attack in the building,
It's
something
one of
like
those
that.
like defibrillators.
Yes.
Got it. All right, then I have another question that I just think it's a lag on the township expenditure reports. I believe it was the last meeting we talked about the expense items for the snow removal, and you said that it was going to be accrued back to last year. Has that happened?
We did the accruals, we haven't reversed them out yet because the audit's still going on.
So this expense item here will be, when I get the March number, will be reduced?
Reduced, yes.
That's what I expected. That was all my questions on the departmental report. So I don't know if anybody has any questions back to that before I move on to the agenda items.
I move it be approved.
Second.
Anybody in the public want to talk about this agenda item before we vote on it?
Good evening. My name is Christina Peroni. I live on Wyndham Lane. During the last meeting, we talked about, in the spirit of openness, possibly putting these reports online so that the public could take a look at them. Is that, I don't know if this is an appropriate time to talk about that, but is that something that you would consider doing so that everybody can look at these in advance?
Yeah, I think we're in the process of considering that. We want to talk to our new interim manager and have a chance to talk to the solicitor and
Great.
Think it through.
Okay, in that regard, if you could also think about posting those new reports that Amy's also going to be doing, the new reports where it has analysis and trend to budget and all of those different reports, if those could also be posted online so that we, at the public, could take a look at those in advance, that would be helpful.
Okay, we will also look into that.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
Commissioner Masterson, I just wanted to bring up, we did post the bills payable list pending board approval this morning.
Okay.
And of course, if Mr. Granger wants to continue doing that, we can, but we were able to post that first thing this morning as a first step in putting these out there.
Okay, thank you for letting us know. With regard to this item, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
I don't know what we're voting on.
We're voting
bills
on
payable?
the departmental
We
reports.
didn't cover bills payable.
I thought we just did.
No, we covered the departmental report,
Okay.
so I didn't get to bills payable
So,
yet.
I'm sorry, bills payable? Are you done with that? All right, I'm going to do approval for
I
bills payable.
didn't discuss it yet.
Oh, okay, well, that's why we're waiting, that's why,
Okay.
go ahead.
Relax. Don't jump ahead until I get
I
through.
didn't, you're the one.
Well, you made a motion apparently to approve something. Did you?
Well, we approved the departmental reports after you're done with it. That's all.
All right, well. We have, the next item is to schedule the bills payable and the monthly budget update. And I want to sort of delink the two because I have two separate issues, not big issues. The disbursements for the approval report, Amy? This, in the memo, you identify it as 09-3B.
Yes.
But I didn't see any identifier on this report, so if you could just,
You actually, I put up at your desk, it didn't make the packet, a summary page.
yes, I see that.
That will be going with the packet that correlates to the 09-3B. But I can definitely take your suggestion and incorporate that into the actual bills list.
Okay. So Amy has provided us with a list of bills payable to approve, and she's also provided us with the documentation that was responsive to our feedback at the last meeting, which essentially has them listed, it's summarized, and it also states, these bills have been approved by the respective department head, verified and processed by the finance department, and are within 2009 departmental budgetary limits as imposed by the Board of Commissioners at its December 15, 2008 stated meeting. So I'll move to introduce the...
Move the approval.
Second.
Any discussion? Any public participation on that? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye. Amy, I wanted to, as I said, delink the schedule of the bills payable and the monthly budget update. I think you made a nice effort to start presenting the information in a far more useful manner than we have historically seen it. And I just have a few questions and comments. One, I think it would be useful to see a year-to-date snapshot, not just a monthly snapshot. But I kind of like the layout you've gotten here, and it's really facilitating us being better decision makers. I had a simple question, and I sent it to you on the email. The 21323 versus the 21307 on what was, I had as what was approved as the budget is was the document outdated, or is there a typo, or is there?
No.
I'm sorry, no, actually, the 21323 was the final budget. The 21307 was the starting point that we started our discussions on 1215. And if you remember, we had presented a few options of revenue enhancers or cost reductions. The board approved 2 revenue enhancers. One was to increase the police extra duty overhead rate, which we estimated would bring in an additional $15,000, and increase the recycling can replacement fee. That was an additional $1,400. So those 2 was $16,400. We rounded it down to 16, and that's what I believe the difference is between the 2 numbers.
I was just looking at the wrong information. The other thing, if I did my calculations accurately, and let me just find my other sheet of paper here. I believe the realty transfer tax represents approximately 9% of our revenues, and we budgeted a flat realty transfer tax. And if I'm understanding the report you wrote, we have our full first quarter revenue projection, or actuals, I guess, and it is 45% below where we were last year. She has it right here. She says it right, if you read the report, it says we received
it in early March, so I added the information for analysis purposes. Sure, yes, we do.
Okay. No, but the March realty transfer tax, right, is 45% below last year. Am I understanding the report accurately?
Actually, January was down 34, February was down 45 year over year, and March was down 53 year over year, so it averaged for the first quarter to be down 45 year over year.
Correct. So if one were to project out that, my math says that our realty transfer tax versus our budget would be almost $900,000 short. Is that?
It's a very good possibility. I mean, the first quarter, as I mentioned in the report, is not the notorious hot time in the Northeast real estate market. So hopefully the spring and summer months will allow that to pick up. But I think it's very good of you to be proactive and notice that. We talked about it at our staff meeting this morning, and we talked about ways that department heads are going to have to be proactive in ways to identify either cost reductions, if they need be, or revenue enhancers, probably more so on the cost reduction side. It was always our plan, really, to wait until the end of the first quarter to make an assessment, and even more so, wait until the business privilege tax returns came in May, because that would really be the gauge as to how our revenues were going to come in total.
If we wait till May, we'll have had 5 months of our actual expenditures, and it doesn't leave us a lot of room to address.
Well, no, the first thing was to wait until the first quarter, which is just next month. But we do have such a large revenue stream coming in May that is going to be a telltale of what the remainder of the year will be. But as I said, we have talked on the department head level. We have talked about the need to be proactive within our own departments to identify areas before it becomes a major issue, maybe the mid-year. So we'll have suggestions for the board should the need arise.
So will you have some preliminary suggestions for us at the April meeting?
We can have them whenever you want. And
I'd like to have some preliminary sense, not that we have to implement them, but if the business privilege tax is less than budgeted, if our trend on the real estate transfer tax continues, again, I looked at it last night, and if my math was right, something like 40% of our revenues come in from the Act 511.
Yes.
Right. And if we're light there, we've got some significant issues to deal with.
Right, and while I brought up in the report the other components of Act 511 do look healthy right now, but we do believe that that's going to be a timing issue. We received 2 taxpayer returns in particular that were very early, so it made the February numbers look good, but we're assuming that the May numbers will be reduced by that amount. So a lot hinges on the BPT coming in, but our game plan was always, let's see the first quarter and have some suggestions. If the board as a whole would like some suggestions, or just you, Commissioner Higgins, we'd be happy to put something together. Unless you had any direction, do you want us to look at staffing levels? Do you want us to look at service changes, or a combination of both?
I'll leave it to your discretion.
And we can talk with Mr. Granger now that he's part of our team now.
Yeah, I was just going to say, now that Mr. Granger is on board, I think that these financial issues are obviously important issues that we would like to get his input on as soon as possible.
I think you've addressed all of my comments. And again, the key one is I'd like to see year-to-date information and a plan to be proactive if we have to address.
I can put that in.
the shortfall.
Yep, we'll have that next month.
Any other board discussion?
I want to ask, or just talk about a few things. I think it's important that we kind of put all this out there. It's in writing. It's good for the board's reviewing all this. But I think when we did budget in November and December, I was really concerned about where the economy was headed. And I had done projections in 2007 and 2008, and I tried to use the best assumptions I could use. We looked at all the assumptions that our finance director used, and you know, it's a guessing game in some ways, but we knew enough then, and we know a lot more now, that we're not headed for better times this year. I know this is Radnor, and we're very lucky to be here, but you know, I'm looking at substantial drops. I actually never imagined it was going to be a 45% drop for the first quarter in realty transfer tax. And the business privilege taxes, when those are filed, those companies will actually be filing for reduction or refund based on what they prepaid. So there's money that's actually going to be leaving our coffers as this happens, so to speak. And I think this board has to act much sooner than later. I think we tried to do this in the fall, and I'll say I failed. I won't speak for the rest of the board, but we're seeing a substantial drop in revenues. The whole country is, the whole state is. Everyone has announced, every state government, every town has announced already that they have substantial shortfalls. I think we need to do everything and anything and everything to make sure that we are fiscally responsible this year, not in August, but starting now. And anything we can do to make sure that we're keeping our expenses in check with our revenues, we need to do. I also know that in the fall, I had discussed with the manager at the time, finding out what the MMO, the minimum municipal obligation, would be for this year. Those numbers generally come out in the late, well, some preliminary numbers come out in the right before the end of the year, and then I guess the final numbers come out. And Amy helped me out here. But I think the MMO that we were projecting was probably, I don't know, $150,000, a couple $100,000. Amy, where do you think we are with that MMO at the present state?
We are still waiting on the 1109 valuation, which is going to be one of the bases for that MMO, but it uses what the market value of the pension plans were as of 1109, and those months leading up to 1109 were tragic as far as the stock market was concerned for all of us.
And they got worse.
Yes, they did.
Yes. So where would we be if we were back on that date? Approximately. Just give me an order of magnitude.
I'm anticipating that the MMO will probably be anywhere from $500,000 to $700,000 more than we're used to spending.
Okay, so almost as, well, let's say a four-fold or five-fold increase.
I think that's fair to say.
And then, I'm not going to get into detail, but we also had a report called GASB 45. And this is long-term debt that we're facing to continue benefits to our employees who retire. Yes. So essentially, at this moment, would you consider this a funded liability or an unfunded liability?
No, it's an unfunded liability.
Okay. This is a big number. I'm going to put it out there now because I don't want to put it out there a couple weeks from now. It's about $45 million.
The accrued liability for covering all lives of current retirees and future retirees.
Okay, and the funding of that, now keep in mind, this is not something that's due tomorrow, but it's due over a long period of time. The funding level that we might have to do to meet that obligation starting next year?
If we were to fund it on a yearly basis and fully fund it eventually, the normal cost is about $4 million a year. Okay.
Again, I would like to sit on this and wait, but we can't. We are going to be putting together a pension committee to look at the MMO calculations and decisions. Do we have a plan to put a committee together to deal with the Gatsby 45 issue? Is that a separate committee? Should that be part of the pension committee responsibility, or should it be separate?
I think it should be separate because that's at the board's discretion. The board could continue to pay as you go, sort of like we are. We'll pay the health premiums as they come due, life insurance premiums as they come due. If you choose to pre-fund it, similar to what we're discussing with the unused leave time funding of that, then that should be a separate issue other than pension.
Okay. We talked at our last meeting. We talked about putting together a plan to fund the vacation carryover, sick time, and comp time. We have a pension committee that will deal with the pension issue, and we'll possibly have this other subcommittee to deal with Gatsby. I think it's important, at least in my mind, that we're facing all these debts, all these unfunded liabilities. And again, we could go through this year, get to the end of the year, maybe we're balanced by the end of the year, but we're not really balanced. We're not even close to balance. We're maybe off as much as $4 million or $5 million from being in balance. And for whatever reason, this has gone on for years and years, but we need to address this as a board. We need to address this head on. And we need to get this into the budget head on. Because quite frankly, if you have to come up with a few million or $4 million every year for this funding, that will cause us to make different decisions on staffing levels. It'll cause us to make different decisions on projects. It'll change what we do. But what we can't do is stick the next generation with all this debt. We already have debt on the books. This is debt off the books. So I ask that we look at that. I would like to see that get onto the agenda, at least the funding mechanisms for the vacation carryover, sick time, and comp time. That should be, that funding mechanism should be brought forward, and we should look at that as a board. And then we'll get to the pension committee and the Gatsby funding. That's all the comment I have now, but this stuff is stuff that I've been looking at for the last couple of months, and realizing that this wasn't stuff that was readily brought to us by the former manager, but it's something we need to look at now. If we want to step in the right direction, we have to do it now. So that's all I had to comment on that at the moment. But Amy, I appreciate all the work you've done on this. You've really helped out with this. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, John. I agree with your perspective on this. And I think when Mr. Granger gets in here after a couple of days, these are some of the subjects we ought to sit down and talk about, how to approach them, whether we want to set up a subcommittee, get a citizens committee involved. These are ideas that we've been talking about. I think now's the time to start putting them into place. Any other discussion on the schedule of bills payable and monthly budget update?
Move.
Pardon me?
Did we move them?
Yes.
We did, yeah, come on to the library.
No.
We're not to the library yet.
No. Yeah, the next item is.
Oh, the bank.
We got to vote on them, right?
Did we vote
Well,
on the
did we vote on the bills payable?
No, we just kept discussing it, right?
Okay.
I think it's second.
Okay. They've been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay.
Great. The next item on the agenda is a resolution 2009-17 authorizing changes in the account endorsements for TD Bank. And I guess I have a question for John Rice, given our earlier action. Do you have this item in front of you, John, by any chance?
Yes, I do.
If you go down to item A, should we amend this resolution to reflect John Granger, or do we approve it as written?
Well, first of all, John Granger, who's the interim acting manager, suggested to me that he not have any signing authority.
Okay.
And that we appoint either a member of the board or a member of the staff along with the township treasurer. So at this point, we have Dan Malloy and Coretta Hutchinson and John Osborne and Amy Cuthbertson.
So is the advice we've gotten, is it's as drafted, is acceptable and appropriate?
As far as I know, yeah.
Okay, then the resolution essentially removes David A. Bayshore as an authorized signer, and as Tom discussed, has Dan Malloy, or in his absence, Coretta Hutchinson, and John Osborne, or in his absence, Amy Cuthbertson, as authorized signatory. So I'll make a motion to introduce this resolution.
Second.
Any discussion? One point that I would like to mention publicly, I was contacted by a constituent, just coincidentally, who asked me whether the township would entertain a request for proposal from local banks as opposed to continuing to do business with a bank that is now apparently based in Canada, TD Bank. I did speak to Ms. Cuthbertson earlier today, who told me that you're already in the process of preparing RFPs for the banking relationships. Is that correct?
It was already a 2009 goal and objective given to us by the then township manager to go out for an RFP in the spring for banking services. So we were going to proceed with that as scheduled.
Thank you. Any other discussion of this? Any public participation on this before we vote?
Hi again, Diane Edbrill. I'm just going to comment that based on what I've been reading in the papers about the health of financial institutions, in fact, the Canadian banking system is the best monetized, one of the, if not the best monetized banking system in the world right now. And frankly, I think taking township funds out of a Canadian-owned bank and putting it into an American-owned bank is perhaps not the wisest financial decision to make now, and I would urge you to look into that before sort of just deciding that a foreign bank is not where we want our money.
Well, I don't think we didn't decide that. It's an issue that we're considering.
Well, I just
we
wanted
said we're
to-
going to do requests for proposals.
And the RFP process is a good process to go through, and no matter how
I'm
we
just
do it.
saying, you know, you're not, I mean, I'm just
It's
saying.
always good to get an RFPs, though.
By all means, I hope you'll consider keeping our money in the TD Bank as well.
Any other public discussion on this item? Hearing none. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That completes finance and audit, I think.
Yes, it does.
Okay, library?
I have one item on the agenda, and then one item I just want to remind folks from our last meeting. The item on the agenda is the upcoming spring programs and activities, and I'll try to go through this pretty quickly. On this upcoming Saturday, March 28th, there's a young children's age 3 to 6 book program. On Wednesdays, April 1st through May 6th, there's even a program for younger children at 9:30 and 10:30 called Mother Goose on the Loose. The library is offering an AARP safe driving course for 55 and older folks on Tuesday, April 14th and April 21st. It is from 1 to 5. It's an 8-hour course. This one does require a registration fee and does require pre-registration. They also have adult yoga at the library on April 13th and May 11th. And on April 15th, for those of you who have your taxes done, the University of Pennsylvania Museum of Archaeology and Anthropology has a speaker coming out to talk about human evolution in a nutshell, and that's at 7 p.m. The other item, just as a reminder, is the library is looking for positions for the board that fall vacant on May 31st. The application process closes March 26th at 5 p.m. this week. So if those folks, anybody interested, they can get an application at the library, but you have to move quickly to get it in. And that concludes my report on the library.
Thank you. Personnel administration?
We have item G, appointment to advisory boards and commissions. I believe we have at least one position for the library.
I'd like to nominate Patrick Magidi to the library board.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye. And I'm not sure if we're at the,
And the other
do we have
point-
an appointment for the EAC?
Yes, I'd like to move for Josh Hilbert, who lives on Chestnut Lane. He's president of GHR Consulting Services, an environmental consulting firm specializing in energy efficiency and pollution prevention, auditing of institutional facilities, and contaminant site characterization and remediation.
Second.
Very well qualified.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
No further action under G,
Okay,
and we're complete.
Park and Rec?
One announcement so far tonight is the Community Environmental Action at Clemacrone Park. It is a cleanup that we do annually over Clemacrone Park, and the park needs your help to correct some problems they have with the stream bank erosion and invasive vines and shrubs. It's on Saturday, March 28th from 9 to 1. We cut vines, we get rid of invasives, we restore the stream bank. There's some education, training, and equipment is provided by John Monroe and the Monroe Ecological Services. We ask that you bring work gloves and a water bottle and dress appropriately. It's a great day down there in the 7th Ward. I'm sure Mr. Fisher will be involved, and a lot of residents down there. We'd love to have residents from all parts of the township, or outside the township for that matter. It's a good way to get back to nature, get back to Radnor a little bit, clean up a gem of Radnor, which is Clemacrone Park. We'd like you to RSVP to Joseph Klein at 610-688-5600, extension 190. And this is sponsored by the Radnor EAC and the Radnor Township Park and Rec Board. Hope you can make it March 28th, 9 to 1 down at Clemacrone Park. That's it for Park and Rec. Thank you.
Thank you. Public Health?
No report.
Public Safety?
The first item on the agenda is the Staff Traffic Committee report for February 17, 2009. Any commissioners have any questions?
Would it be approved?
Second?
Any questions from the public?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Next item on the agenda is following up on the earlier item regarding the Jazz Festival with Resolution 2009-16, requesting that the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation submit the application for temporary road closing permit for North Wayne Avenue from 7 a.m. June 13, 2009 until, it says 7 a.m. June 14, 2009. So the resolution would close that stretch of North Wayne Avenue for that period of time.
Move the approval?
Second.
Any board discussion? Any public discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
The next item is a demonstration of voice notification services via Global Connect. Mr. J. Christopher.
Thank you, Mr. Mahoney. Good evening. As you know, last year, the township subscribed to a voice notification system called Global Connect, which is a reverse 911 system where we can notify residents in the event of emergency or non-emergency matter. As you also know, we have also a separate text email system that we put together ourselves. We had asked Global Connect to devise for us a custom interface whereas the residents would be able to go online and enter their home and cellular phone numbers. Radnor Township residents would be able to do that. So they did do so, and we're rolling it out this week. We are urging all residents, business owners in Radnor Township to use the online interface. And although we do have a database in effect which contains residents and business telephone numbers, we are urging all residents to go online and enter your telephone numbers, your cell phone numbers, whatever number that you would like to be contacted with in the event of an emergency or non-emergency matter regarding the township. It's real simple and easy to use. On the main page of the Radnor.com website, you'll see in the circled area, emergency notification registration. You'll click on that. It'll take you to the next page. Now, there's two sections here. One, the top circle is the emergency email text notification. That's run by us. That's the same as it always has been, but we also added an emergency voice notification area here on the bottom part. And what you'll do is then you'll click right here where it says click here to sign up for voice notification, and it'll bring you to the sign-up page. The sign-up page, you must be a Radnor resident, and it will verify your address. You'll enter your name, your street address, county, city, zip code, and then you'll be able to enter up to 2 phone numbers.
If you have more than 2 phone numbers, you can enter the 2 phone numbers and then add the information and go back in again and add, as many as you have. If you have children who have cell phones or anyone that you need to have voice notification for.
Steve, it says only phone numbers listed to valid Radnor Township addresses may be submitted. How
That's
do you know
correct.
how do you know my cell phone number is associated with my house?
You would have to list a residential street address and then put your cell phone number underneath there.
So you've made so there's an
Yes.
element of trust.
Yes. Okay? The email's for everyone, but the voice notification is for Radnor Township residents only. After you add your information, you'll be put into the database, and you'll be on the list to be notified in the event of a notification. Real simple, easy process. If you don't have web, you can come to the Township building. We have this form available for you. One side of it is for the voice notification, and flip it over. The other side is for your email text notification. You could fill this out and leave it with the receptionist. We'll enter the information in for you if you don't have access to the web. If you want to call, you can call the Township number. Extension 106 is my extension, and give me your information. If you don't want to fill out a form, we'll verify it and enter you into the system that way. So we're giving you every opportunity to give us your phone number so that you can be contacted in the event of a problem. Okay? One other thing I wanted to bring to your attention is that we've been working on a no-cost alternative to video on demand for Township meetings, and we, through some negotiations with our eGov website carrier, they afforded us space to be able to, and if the commissioners decide to do this, we could post 1 month's of meetings, okay, up on the website if you decide that you want this. We came up with a draft of a page where you would click on the video on demand page. There would be 1 month's worth of meetings, any meetings that are televised here in the townships.
Get Christina back in here. I'll let her know. Yeah.
Would be available to view. The only thing is you would not be able to download the meetings, although you'd be able to view them in a streaming video window. And you can also maximize that window to full screen. So it was at no cost to the Township, other than our standard fee for eGov.
Christina.
And if you decide to do this,
We're going to get some videos of the meetings on the web. No cost to the residents. And watch them to your heart's content. I'm not
So that's
promising,
it.
but we're getting closer, okay?
so that's
got
it.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Do you need any authorization from us?
If you want to approve the video on demand, we'll turn it on tomorrow.
Motion to turn on the video on demand. Second?
President.
That's right.
We got a quorum.
All those in favor?
Okay.
You go ahead. You're the
All those in
president.
favor?
Yeah, I'm the vice president, I can do this, right?
Yeah, you can do
Yeah.
it.
Motion to do video on demand on the website
At no cost to the
at
taxpayers.
no cost to the taxpayers.
That's correct.
I have a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Tom, are you in favor of this? We just,
Thank you very much.
record Tom as saying aye.
Sorry, I didn't know we were voting.
We're getting streaming, is it streaming video?
Yep.
Streaming video. Okay, the next item on the agenda is ordinance number 2009-7, which establishes a 25-mile-per-hour speed limit on Woodland Avenue.
Move the approval?
Second.
Anybody want to speak on that? All those in favor?
Aye. Next item is ordinance 2009-8, which establishes a handicap parking space on Garrett Avenue.
Move the approval?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Ordinance 2009-09, which establishes permit parking on Farm Road.
Move the approval?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Ordinance 2009-10, which prohibits parking on a portion of Farm Road.
Move the approval?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Ordinance 2009-11, which establishes a handicap parking space on Farm Road.
Move the approval?
Second.
Nobody in the public wants to talk about any of these? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye. That's it for public safety.
Public Works and Engineering?
Yes, we have a request for authorization to enter into a contract with McMahon Associates for construction observation services for the PennDOT construction of the Lancaster Avenue closed-loop system. McMahon Associates has been involved in the engineering design of the project since its origination. Bill Hagan has recommended the Board of Commissioners contract with McMahon Associates for the Tier 1 level of service at a cost of $19,500. Funds for this project are available in the 209 capital budget, and I would move the authorization.
Second.
Any discussion? Anybody in the public?
Yeah, Dan.
Bill.
Or Bill, can you just tell me briefly what that's going to entail? We've been talking about this literally for 8 years, and we actually now have it in our hands. So I don't want it to just go by with a quick vote without you giving us a little update as to what you perceive this to actually do for us.
Well, what this is going to do is it's going to link all the signals on Route 30 from Sugartown Road, actually Sugartown and Morris, and then Old Eagle School, all the way down to Lowry's Lane. It will allow the signals to talk with each other. We'll also be able to set timings so that the traffic flow will run better through the 30 corridor at peak times, and those timings will be able to be adjusted. If there was an emergency where everything on 30 had to be green or on flash, we have the capabilities of doing that. There's different programs that can be run on this system to better flow the traffic on Route 30.
And so it's basically a smart system that makes its own decisions based on the software, but we can manually override it if we need to.
If we had to.
Is that the way you would describe it?
Yes.
Great.
Well, can Enrique go from 320 to Wayne without stopping at a red light?
Impossible.
If he lets me know when he's coming up, we'll make the adjustment.
But no, we've been talking about this for a long time, and it's been in the works, and I'm happy to see that it's coming to fruition here. And even help a little bit in some of these peak hours, and I know that it gathers data, and it's a very sophisticated system that I'm not going to try and act like I know how it works, but I think it'll be a great benefit for Route 30 and the residents of Radnor.
Just to give you an update, it went to bid in late December, and it was awarded on January 7th, and PennDOT is picking up almost $2.2 million of this project. It's going to update all the signals. It'll add emergency preemption, all the controllers, all the mast arms, everything that's being updated out there is going to be on the PennDOT ticket. And we were just required to pay for the engineering and design.
It's beautiful. Nice work.
Any other board discussion? Any public discussion on this item? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye. The next item is a request for authorization to enter into a contract with Natural Gardens and Lawns Incorporated for the purchase and delivery of all products to be applied during our 2009 Safe Turf program for the sum of $60,856. Funds for this purchase are available in our 209 Parks Department operating budget. Bill, was this a bidded item? Is this a state contract, or what is this?
No, this is, if you remember back in the mid-'90s, you brought in a consultant, Brian Jones, from Natural Lawn and Gardens, and the move, I believe the EAC was involved also, to go with an organic program that got away from pesticides, herbicides, and Brian Jones has been our consultant for the last 14 years. He'll come out, he does field assessments, soil assessments, tells us what we need to do in order to get the playing fields to their maximum potential. And Brian has been supplying our supplies for the last 14 years.
And this is a professional services contract, so we can word it this way?
That's correct.
Do you know if Brian bids out the materials?
No, I don't, Kevin.
Can you find that out, Bill?
Sure.
Thanks.
I'll move the authorization.
Second.
Any other board discussion?
Hang on a second. I want to make sure I understand this. This is a professional services agreement for this service?
Yes,
Essentially.
The organic fertilizer, all the organic treatments that Brian does, it's a specialized product and program.
And we've been doing this for how long?
14 years.
Yeah.
Well, I think I have a problem with it.
That's exactly why you want to
Yeah.
test the rate.
Yeah. I don't want to be a bad guy up here, but I'm glad to hear that it's organic, but this sounds like a contract, and it sounds like we need to put this out to bid. And I understand loyalty, and I understand 14 years, but this is $64,000 on a contract. And, please, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but what I'm looking at here appears to be a contract. And for materials, It's not professional services, it's for materials. And
Is he the only supplier?
That's who the township has used, Bill. I have talked to Paul Totero about going out to bid in the future. Right now, we're on a timeline. This is the way it's been done. We've used Brian in the past. If the board would like me to solicit bids in the future or go out to bid, that's fine. Right now, we're pushing time. I need to get these products down on these fields.
What was the average cost over the last 5 years, do you know?
Last year was about $43,000, and then there was some add-ons because there was some herbal tea, stuff done for crabgrass and some other treatments. The price of fertilizer has actually gone up about 20% in the last year.
So how long would it take it to get a couple other bids at this point?
2-3 months.
Well, it's going to take about at least 6 weeks by the time we put documents together and go out to bid and receive them and award them. So we'll be lucky if we can do it in 6 weeks.
And is that a problem in terms of the materials and the
we really need to start getting stuff on the fields, Tom, by the 15th of April, and have the program up and running. I mean, at the close of the spring program, I could sit down with Paul Totero in the Parks Department, and we could come up and look around for products that would match and stay organic.
Well, I guess my question is, for the board, I think comments by Mr. Higgins, Mr. Fisher are well taken, but given the circumstances, are they comfortable with letting it go this year and making a requirement for a bid process for next year?
Yeah, I'm fairly comfortable with that, but I would like him perhaps, since I suspect it works kind of like my grass guys, something gets done in April, something gets done in May, something gets done in June. Is that how it works, Bill?
Yeah, and if we buy the products early, we get like a $2,600, I think, discount on the materials.
I mean, because it sounds like what you're saying is if we delay this, we kind of screwed ourselves because you can't get this.
Well, you're kind of at the mercy of whatever prices they throw at you because you need to get the products.
Right. Plus, you won't get the stuff down in time to accomplish the objective you're trying to accomplish.
Which is vital.
Right. And I think it's not ideal, but I'm okay with it. But I think we want to, again, put it out to bid, check it out next year.
Not a problem.
Did I move the approval? So move the authorization.
I think you did.
Anybody second?
Second?
I'll second it.
Okay.
Second.
Any other discussion? Any public participation?
During these tough economic times, I think that the staff in general should just be cognizant. If it takes 6 weeks, I can't imagine it takes 6 weeks to do an RFP. Normally will take 2 hours. You send it out to your contractors within 2 weeks. I know people are incredibly hungry, and I think that we need to maybe ask staff if there are other things that are going on that we're purchasing, given that we've got a $4 million deficit coming up. We need to be thinking about that in the future. And what happens repeatedly is you guys are brought things with a deadline, that if you don't act tomorrow, then, everything falls apart. And that happened with the turf, the artificial turf. It happened with a lot of big purchases that we've made. And I would like to just ask to please step back and say to the staff, you know what, things have to go out for bid. And I think in this hungry economy, people are being very competitive. So I think for 2 weeks, I mean, you guys know what it's like. You go and get another contractor, get another bid. You have another Board of Commissioners meeting in 2 weeks. I can't imagine that you can't get a bid out within 3 days and say to the contractors, I want it back in a week. I mean, I know I do bidding, and I can get it back in a week for huge contracting.
But you don't have to advertise and all that, do you?
No, I don't have to advertise.
Well, we do.
But that's one advertising cycle, right?
I don't know. Dan can tell you how long it takes.
It's two consecutive weeks.
We're having a sidebar. I'm trying to understand what you're approving, and Dan tells me that.
Do you have a copy of it in front of you?
Yeah, it's an invoice basically. That's correct. I have the memo.
We have a request for authorization to enter into a contract with Natural Gardens and Lawns for the purchase and delivery of all products to be applied during our 2009 Safe Turf Program for the sum of $60,856.
It's an invoice, though. It's not a contract. It's just authorization to purchase. That's what's in front of you.
Which actually begs the question, it should be a purchase order, not an invoice.
Well, let me just answer the easy question. This is not a professional services. So Dan tells me that when you advertise things, you advertise it twice, 2 successive weeks. So you're looking at putting an ad in the newspaper, whatever the deadline is for, let's say, this Friday is probably tomorrow or Wednesday, and then doing it next Friday and having some bids back. So if you're approving this under the theory it's a professional service, it's not, clearly. It's a product. It's fertilizer.
Right. It's
Correct?
a product.
I mean, you're going to find this real surprising, but I
You're
agree
going to
with
agree
you.
with me? I'm getting the
I mean,
videos and you agree with me.
Look, I understand the position that Bill's in. I appreciate that. But technically, if this is a contract that's required to be let out for bid, I think we have to do that.
And the only exception to that rule is if it's an emergency, and I'm not sure this would qualify as an emergency, even though it is the end of March. I think that you've got to bid it out.
Okay.
Well, Bill, can I just ask Bill, it's my understanding that Brian Jones provides a service. He is on site and involved with determining the type of materials that we're purchasing?
He writes the program for the township. He comes out and does the field analysis. He does some of the soil analysis, tells us what it's low on, whether it's nitrogen, magnesium, potassium, what have you, tells us what is needed in a particular ball field or playing field.
And he supplies, okay, but that's not reflected in what was handed to the board. It's important that they know that.
Well,
But it's still a product.
Who applies the product?
I mean, his product, he
Township.
says, is he the only
product.
manufacturer of this product? I mean,
Here we go.
to be honest, Bill, I don't know. I mean, the seed could be purchased at probably Lesco, but the organic material that he's been getting for us, he puts the ratios together for the certain fields.
But it's two different things. There's his service and there's materials.
Right. And to me, that's a contract, that should be put out to bid. That's not a professional service agreement.
you know, but
It's a project.
no, the thing is that he goes out to the field, he tests the field, he tells us what percentage of this, and he mixes it for us and delivers this, and we apply it. I mean, that seems to me like a professional service to me.
Does he charge a separate
Disagree.
invoice for his work, or is this the only bill we get from him annually?
That's the only bill you get.
So his professional service fees is probably in here, and we should probably, we need to bid this out.
I think we should bid it out. It's a huge sum of money.
I think
I've been
we
saying
have
this
a
all along.
consensus
We
here.
should be doing competitive bidding on I don't care if it's for pencils. I mean, that's just the way I feel about
Billy,
it.
maybe you want to ask him if there's something that we have to put down in the next 2 weeks. Maybe there's a percentage of this, some of the material that maybe we could talk about at our next meeting that we can put down right away. But we kind of got to ask him. We kind of got to bid this out. Not kind of. We have to.
I'll try and get it together.
What's the threshold on that? It's 3,000?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I'd be willing to vote to approve $3,000 of expenditure for any materials that you need to get down between now and the next meeting, but otherwise, I think this needs to go out.
That would not work.
Let's see what Bill comes back with.
And I really think we should be, we shouldn't accept bids unless we have at least a minimum of 3. And if we put something out and we get one bid package back, it should go back out again. I do agree with Christina. There are a lot of businesses that are hungry out there.
This is getting silly tonight.
It's not. This is a Christina love
kidding.
fest.
Well, all right, I think the bottom line is I think we have a consensus here that we don't want to approve this. We want to bid it out. So at this point,
So we'll table it.
we'll table it.
Motion to
yeah.
table.
Motion-
Bill, how many people provide this service, do you know?
No, I'll have to look into it, Bill.
Okay, thank you.
Motion to table?
Second? Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay,
That's it under Public Works.
thank you. Old business? Hearing none. New business? Hearing none.
Wait a minute, I have something. I did have
Oh, yeah.
something. Bob, I just wanted to mention that CVS is remodeling their building. CVS is remodeling their building, putting facing on the front of their building.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it's completed.
Yeah. And one of the issues, you know, because we tried to save the building and move the MAP paint store, and they tore it down. And one of the issues is that CVS is parking in that parking lot. And I was hoping CVS was going to expand someday and we could get some stormwater management there. But could you contact the owners and say that, you know, it's CO commercial, they're not allowed to really park cars there, they're going to build a building, or, you know, if they're not going to build a building and they want to park cars there, then how about coming in and give some relief to the 3 or 4 property owners in the back to get all that water off that macadam they put down? So I'd really like you to look into that. I know we were waiting to see if CVS was going to expand, and then we could get some stormwater management, but it doesn't look like they're going to expand, and it doesn't look like the owners are going to build. They can come in and build a building there, and we could get some stormwater management. So can you contact the owner and say we'd like them to move forward and put a building there to do stormwater management, or if they're going to continue to park cars, then we're going to have to look at doing some stormwater management there and give them permission to do that.
I'll do whatever the consensus of the board is. Whatever the board asks me to do, I will do that. I can predict that a corporate decision was already made at CVS to just do a remodeling facelift and not a new building.
CVS is out of it. We have an empty lot where CVS is parking cars illegally. It's CO commercial, which doesn't permit a parking lot. They tore a building down. They can build something there, but they ought to build something there and do some stormwater management. If they don't want to build something, if they want to use a parking lot, then they ought to come to the township and ask permission to use it as a parking lot, and we can get our stormwater management out of it. I mean, that's all I'm
CVS
saying.
owns it? You're saying CVS?
No. The family that owns it, they own the whole strip. CVS doesn't own it. They rent. But the owner that tore that building down, and you know, if they're not going to build another building, CVS technically can't park cars here because you can't use the CO area.
Well, doesn't the owner of the property have to tell CVS not to park there? Is it Bob's responsibility to tell them they can't park there?
No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is let the owners know that we could enforce that, and we're looking for some stormwater management. Either build a building and do stormwater management, or we could enforce no parking there, and they could just have an empty lot, and CVS wouldn't like that. So I think we have some leverage there. So we ought to talk to the property owners and see what they want to do with that lot, so we can get some stormwater management on that property to help the residents in the back. That's all I'm saying. I'd like you to look into that.
Okay.
Is that all right with the board? Okay, thank
Can we get an update on the library bathroom situation?
I went up there and I looked at the lighting, I looked at the ceiling tiles, and also looked at the bathrooms. Horn Plumbing and Heating was up there. I had asked Horn Plumbing and Heating to get together a proposal to replace all the fixtures in the 4 different bathrooms at the library. I have not heard back from the library staff as of yet.
Okay. Any other new business? Okay. Public participation?
Hi, my name is Paul Hayes, 214 Midland Avenue. I've been a resident there for 35 years. Back in January 19th, I had a sewer problem. Sewer was coming out of the vent. It took a little while for people to get it to come out and to identify what it was. And they snaked it towards the road, and they found out that it was 19 inches on the other side of the curb. In other words, it was out to the street. And first off, I thought to myself, well, this is unusual for them to find the same problem that I had 7 or 8 years ago, or 8 or 9 years ago. And so in talking to Mr. Maloney and Bill Hagan, I found out that the basic ordinance had changed, and that I'm supposed to cover for myself the whole lateral. So we have a situation where what I feel is a pre-existing situation where, and it's very identifiable. The patch is there from 8 years ago, 9 years ago, where they went in, and I distinctly remember them looking down the hole after I...
Them is the township, say the
Yes,
township.
okay, the township fellows coming out, looking down into this hole and just coming along and basically filling it. Now, this is, it must have been about a year later, I called them again and I said, that hole has reappeared. So what they did is they opened it. They opened the street up, a 4 by 3.5 hole they made, and they went down into it, and whatever they did probably what was required of them at that time. So we have this break now. Which when they put the snake in, and here the snake is saying, "Hey, you're back in this hole again." We've got this situation where I went out, as I was instructed to do, to go out and get bids, and the bid that I got back was $4,600. That does not conclude, according to Horn's contractual agreement or invoice. Did not include materials, and it did not include permits. So we're talking about a $5,000 bill. So I really believe, because of the pre-existing situation that I feel that this would fall under, I feel that it should not be my responsibility to go into that hole again to try to figure out, number one, what's causing it, and secondly, to do the road work and all the rest of it by a contractor in order to get this thing established as being corrected. Now I've got a couple things which I feel I know Mr. Higgins and Bill know Midland Avenue, but Midland Avenue gets probably the greatest amount of curb traffic. People going to St. Catharines 7 days a week and parking in front of my house. The buses come by and they park in front of the house. And so there's a constant amount of road, not just regular road traffic, but stuff where they're pulled off on this side and they're actually riding the curb. So I think that was a major consequence. The major consequence of the heavy traffic has created a problem. And I think that the other problem, in talking to Mr. Horn, was that he said that I just asked him generally, because I'm not looking to give him get sharp answers from him or anything else like that. I said, well, what causes something like this? Why should something like this happen? And as far as your work is concerned, he said, Paul, the major part of the work that I do, or the preponderance of the work that he does, is not that not the old buildings and not the clay pipe and all the rest of it. He said, my greatest amount of work generally involves homes that are 20 to 25 years old. And I said, well, why should that be? He said because of the fact that when they're putting in their pipes, their sewer pipes, they're not putting in what is a hard surface underneath the pipe. So if you do not have that firm surface on the pipe, underneath the pipe, if cars ride on over it, or that if that surface is soft or it begins to drop some, it leaves the pipe, the cast iron pipe, hanging out there with no support underneath it. So what happens is it snaps the pipe, it breaks the pipe in some way or other because of the weight, but there's nothing underneath it to hold the whole thing in place. So that was, and there's another part of it. There's another part of it. Bill Hagan and Dan Malloy, they went down in the culvert that is right next to the curb. It's underneath my sidewalk and all the rest of it, and they found an opening in the culvert. And I really believe, with the water rushing in through that culvert over the years, It allows the water to go from the culvert into that same spot again and eroding whatever soil or rock or whatever that they put underneath it has eroded away. So, but the bottom line is, I didn't break the pipe. I didn't break the pipe, and I think from a general township point of view, I don't know how a township could say to people that it's your responsibility out into the street. I just don't understand that at all with 50 years of business. That I'm basically, through the right-of-way system, I give the right-of-way to have all the utilities taken care of and all the other things and all the rest, and to just leave my pipe, and when the pipe gets broken, by not me, but obviously something broke it. It's got to be an automobile that has actually broken it. So I say this, that I think that from the point of view of just Mr. Homeowner, who now has to pay a bill which is equivalent to 10% of what you paid last year for lateral damage that was repaired by the township, I think that's really going overboard. I think especially, being a senior citizen and being one of the 13% of the population in this township, and then on fixed income on top of it, and then for me to be able to come out with basically $5,000 of cold cash and putting it on the counter for Mr. Horn to take care of, I don't think this is a good thing. Especially when, I didn't do it. I didn't do it. Somebody else broke my pipe because of my courtesy to say, hey, you can use the street in front of my house, and you can park in front of my house, and you can run the cars, you can wait there with the kids and all the rest of it, wait for the kids and go to Mass and all the rest of it over 7 days, and then when it breaks, you say, hey, it's your trouble, it's your baby. I don't think that's right at all.
Well, let me ask Mr. Hagan, what's the township's position with regard to this particular incident?
Well, the ordinance was changed in September of 2008, and the reason it was changed, we were asked to find cost-saving measures. I went out and surveyed other townships. Most other townships, not only do they not take care of the lateral, they will not even come out and offer a service to try and get the lateral open to the residents. We do provide that service. In the first 14 months that I took over, we spent over $27,000 on lateral repairs, and we thought that the ordinance change was a positive move forward, being that it was part of the private plumbing system to get gray water from a private residence out to the main. We take care of over 125 miles of sanitary sewer mains that vary in sizes from 6 to 24 inches. And there's approximately 6,500 laterals connected to our system. And that's 6,500 more pipes that we would have to maintain. And that was the reason for changing the ordinance.
Well, I would like to add to that also, though, but I think that road system is obviously very important. But I don't think that there should be a dozen people or so winning the unlucky lottery every year to repair breaks in the street. I think that if it's a public thing, it should be put into, I would think that it should be put into a separate category where there's some kind of a trust fund or something where money is put aside by everybody that has a hookup into the system, and it just money that accumulates. And if you go 66, is that what you said, 66? So how many hookups?
6,500.
6,500. If you go 6,500, and I'm not sure is that totally private housing, or is that including apartments?
That's residential and business.
Okay, all right, but say 6,000. If you had 6,000 people feeding on into 23,000, and obviously 23,000 is not a number that's going to stay 23,000. I mean, it's going to go up and it's going to go down or whatever. But there's certainly a better way than me having to pay $5,000 to take care of something that I have not done. And I certainly allow everybody to use the front of my property for their parking and waiting for their children and all the rest of it. I don't put my car out on the street. So it's like, my hands are clean. What did I do wrong?
Okay, well, the issue here is that in September, on the recommendation of staff, we approved the owner having responsibility from the vent to the street. So before, from the trap out to the street, which sometimes is 20 feet, 50 feet, 200 feet, we used to take care of that whole trap. And I think the question that we have to revisit, do we want the residents digging up the street? And, I mean, they're responsible for the pipe now. They picked up the pipe from the trap to the street instead of the trap to the curb, and now we got them digging up the street. So that's something that we have to decide if we want the residents and their plumber digging up our street. The issue with Mr. Hayes here is that the township has dug up this spot twice and repaired this in some manner over the last 8 years. And the issue is, should the township should go back and repair it? This culvert that his sewer pipe goes through is a stream. It's a stream that comes up in St. Catherine's Grotto. It goes underground from the middle school and comes right down Midland Avenue, right under his sidewalk. So this is a big culvert. His pipe goes right through that and goes to the street and connects to this, to our sewer line in the middle of the street. But the blockage is not where the sewer line is in the middle of the street. It's the curbs here, and there's this patch that I'm pretty sure that the township, although they have no record of, but I know Mr. Hayes, and if he had someone do it, and he says they were here 2 different occasions to dig that up and to fix that, then I think the township has some responsibility to go in and revisit that patch and dig that up and see what the problem is and see if we can't repair it in the street.
I agree. Absolutely. Especially if it's a history of us being out there. Well, problems, a pre-existing condition.
Well, I would like to then move that the township authorize Bill and to go out and to take care of any problem in the street. If there's a problem from the curb forward, then that's your problem.
I think this is a different and unique situation in that the township has addressed this in the past. And
yes.
so it is potentially a problem which was caused by the township, as opposed to other situations where problems with the lateral are not caused by the township. They simply happen because of age, tree branches, things of that nature. So I think that having passed this ordinance is a good thing, and I think your situation might be an exception to that because you could relate it back to the work that we had done, potentially. So I don't see that we need to overhaul the ordinance, but I think we need to look at these things in a case-by-case situation, and where we have perhaps precipitated the problem, that we should address it.
Right. Well, I appreciate that, but I think that I have not been to a township meeting in probably a year or so, but I can tell you this ordinance, if it's going to cost individuals money, and if you interpolate on out my $5,000 out to the middle of the street, we're basically talking about somebody could be hit with $15,000. $15,000 cost.
This is one of the problems when we're caught in these economic crunch times. We look for ways to save money for all the taxpayers, and it has the unintended consequence of being a somewhat onerous provision or sort of off-the-books tax, if you will, towards several individual taxpayers. And it's very unfortunate, but that's a balancing act.
We're not changing the ordinance. We certainly continue to look at all our ordinances, but we're looking at yours as a special situation with the holes open twice.
I understand that.
And I'm asking that the township, that the commissioners authorize Bill Hagan to go out and dig that up and see if he can solve the problem. But anything from the curb in is your responsibility.
Okay.
Board willing to authorize that?
I'm willing to authorize.
Okay.
Thank
So
you.
authorized.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, let's do it if we're going to do it.
Motion to
So move.
Second.
authorize.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Any other public participation?
Good evening. My name is Chip Addis. I'm a St. David's resident and Wayne business owner. I happened to be reading the Home Rule Charter the other day in my spare time. I was reading section 9.04, prohibitive activities, violations, and penalties. Section A specifically states, the activities which follow shall be prohibited in the operation of the township government. Number 1, discrimination. No person shall, in employment by the township in any capacity or appointment to any board, commission, or authority, or removal therefrom, be favored or discriminated against because of age, race, national origin, sex, handicap, or political or religious opinions or affiliations in violation of applicable federal and state laws. No person shall be accorded favored treatment in employment or appointment because of a family relationship. Violation of any provision of this section shall constitute grounds for forfeiture of office, termination of appointment, or dismissal. On March 9th, I hand-delivered a letter to Mr. Masterson, and which basically stated that I had reason to believe that there have been dozens of complaints brought to the attention of this board over the past few years against an elected township official, and essentially these complaints have been largely ignored. I guess my question is, number 1, when can I expect a reply to my letter?
You can't.
Excuse me?
We're not going to reply to your letter.
And is there a reason why?
Because we don't have an obligation to reply to your letter. We have an obligation to take reasonable steps to follow up on complaints that relate to the workplace here. And we have done that in the past, and we'll continue to do that, and we will do that as personnel matters, and it will be done confidentially. If you have a problem with the behavior of an elected official, you have various matters of recourse that you can pursue, and I suggest that you do that.
Okay. Can you make a suggestion as to what avenue I pursue?
No.
Because obviously I kind of suspected I would be stonewalled on this issue.
Well, you've read the charter. There are provisions in the charter that tell you exactly what to do if you're unhappy with the conduct of an elected official.
And you feel confident that you have taken steps to deal with these complaints and deal with the people who have brought the complaints to the attention of this board?
I feel confident that this board is going to carry out its responsibility to its employees and do it in a proper manner and continue to do it in a proper manner. And that's what we're doing.
And that you have done so in terms of these dozens of complaints that have been brought to the attention of this board?
I told you what I'm going to tell you about this. We're going to do what we have to do. We're going to do it properly. We're going to do it thoroughly. And we're going to do it as a personnel matter. And if you have a problem with an elected official, you can initiate whatever action that you'd like.
I really have a problem. My problem really lies with the welfare of the 200 employees of this township, so that they have are given the opportunity to work in a safe environment. That's really my concern here.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that, and the board has that concern and takes it very seriously, and we will continue to do so.
I hope you do. Thank you.
Any other public participation?
Hi, Rick Barker. I'm communicating to you as the chair of the Garrett Hill Steering Committee. In conjunction with the Chrome Park cleanup, part of the activity is stream bank restoration, and also part of the Garrett Hill Master Plan involves stream bank restoration in that park. In order to properly implement stream bank restoration in the park, a 10 to 20 foot natural or wild growth buffer strip along the stream in the south end, where the turf grass comes right up to the stream, needs to be established. This could be accomplished by simply staking out a strip and prevent it from being mowed. It would save money in mowing and would improve the stormwater management in the township. It would enhance the park and the township ecology. And I was just going to suggest that perhaps this is a task that could be addressed and performed during the March 28th Clemacron cleanup. And I wanted to make, the board aware, Enrique aware. And Tom, you might remember we discussed it at one point in time, but I never followed up on it, obviously. But I just wanted to bring it up in conjunction with the Clemacron cleanup. Thank you.
I'm sure they can consider it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public participation?
Peter Cosenza, Donna Lane. Good evening. I'm here to share my perspective on the chain of events that have played out recently in the public arena regarding the removal of Dave Bayshore as Township Manager. My motivation is grounded in the fact that the process that has been put into motion and the public reaction which has been portrayed is very much in conflict with my core sensibilities. My intention is not to place blame or make outrageous assertions, even though a precedent for this type of behavior has been set here. No, it is my belief that the Board of Commissioners, the Township employees, and the public at large are basically well-intentioned and good people. In light of this assumption, and based upon the information that has been presented to date, including the resolution that has been put forth calling for the resignation of Dave Bayshore, in conjunction with the swiftness and unilateral nature of the proceedings calling for his removal, I am left wanting for the substance that would warrant this type of activity. In the absence of this substance, I am left with great concern that there may be personal or political forces that are affecting undue pressure in this scenario. Even though we have been told that the evidence against Dave Bayshore is irrefutable, I would like to offer counterpoint. The two major charges that have been levied deal with a bonus program for the Township Manager and the Township employees, and a housing component in the Township Manager's employment contract. The bonus program was in place in Radnor Township before Dave Bayshore was appointed manager, and a housing allowance is not an uncommon compensation instrument for a Township Manager position. The resolution calling for the resignation of Dave Bayshore alleges breach of the Township Home Rule Charter and the Township Code of Ordinances. The clauses cited from these documents are broad-based and generic in nature. Without disclosure of evidence where Dave Bayshore violated written procedures and written policies and procedures, I believe that these charters are applied inappropriately. Where is the smoking gun? An employment contract signed by two commissioners with full knowledge of all commissioners presiding at the time?
I just want to...
It's a brief statement. I'm almost done.
I just want to point something out. That is not in the resolution. There's nothing
Excuse
about
me,
the employment
just let me finish my
contract in the
statement.
resolution.
This is an honest treatment as I see what's come by. And when I'm finished, I have copies for all of you to read, and if you'd like to comment. But I would just appreciate finishing.
Well, okay, that's fine, but you referred to the resolution,
Okay,
which
I'm
is very
sorry.
fact-specific, and you're referring to things that are not in the resolution, and they're not part of
What was not in the resolution?
an allegation with regard to the employment contract and the loan.
No, I said it was brought up in the public meetings. So,
The basis for his removal is in the resolution.
okay,
and the facts
if I'm stating something inappropriately, you can clear it up. Can I finish this, please?
Sure.
Thank you. Where is the smoking gun? Bonuses paid via standard payroll that are recorded appropriately on W-2 forms and whose gross dollars are reflected in approved budgets. I understand that the disclosure of this could have been better, but to allege that Dave Bayshore acted alone, solely for his own personal gain, and with specific intention to defraud the public seems ludicrous. No, what I see is some sloppy procedure where all parties involved are complicit. I see no evidence of corruption, and continuing down that line of thinking will be done to the detriment of our township operations and community. Now, to the most unfortunate aspect of these events, because of how these issues unfolded, we may have ruined the life of a public servant who, by most accounts, is a good family man, involved in his community, and has served our township commendably for over 2 decades. Without due process and with total disregard for presumed innocence, he has been vilified by this Board of Commissioners and seemingly ambushed in public purview. I would like to reiterate that I believe this board is comprised of well-intentioned and good people. So what I'd ask that you reflect on your motivations and question the merit of the decisions that have brought us to this point. To the residents of Radnor Township, there's a process that has been put into motion, either intentionally or by happenstance. Either way, if allowed to continue, may change the face of our township government and public service, and not necessarily for the better. To the commissioners, I humbly submit this sentiment. Do not think that the residents with the most time to lobby represent most of the township citizens, and those with the loudest voices necessarily speak for the silent majority. Please recognize that an effective government knows when to lead and when to follow. At this point in time, we need your leadership, and I respectfully request that you not follow the lead of residents and township employees who meddle beyond the scope of good stewardship. Thank you.
Any other public participation?
Hello, my name is Michael. Michael Ellis. I'm a resident at 112 Valley Porch Terrace. Also a business owner in the center of Wayne. And there's just two items I have to bring up, and I know this may not be the appropriate board to bring it to, but I'm going to speak my mind tonight. One is valet parking that we're providing for the businesses in town. It is paid for by 7 or 8 businesses in town. That's a free valet parking to try and generate more business for all of us in town. As you heard tonight, it may end at the end of this month. It's paid for primarily by the restaurants on North Wayne Avenue and Take and Market Quo. There's two reasons behind it. One, it's very expensive for all of us. We're all paying $75 each per night for the valet parking for 2 nights a week, generally because there is not enough parking in Wayne for everybody. It is helping. It is helping all the businesses besides just the restaurants. It's helping all the merchants in town that are not participating in paying for it. Secondly, to bring up another issue of, we use Bellevue parking lot, or at the AT&T building, which is leased out for parking in the township, along with several other parking lots that are leased out or at least permit parking for the school district, and up behind Take near Ame Salon, there's another lot there. I'm currently paying for 38 parking spaces in this lot that was required for me to open my business. To this date, I have paid $48,000 for parking in Radnor Township. Is billed for by Radnor Township and paid to a trust fund. It is not a tax, but it was a requirement by the zoning board for me to open my business. This is run by 4 different people. Clint Stubeck, I'm sorry if I pronounced it incorrectly. Dave Bayshore, who's secretary. Mac McCoy, and from what I understand, Steve Davis are the 4 principal people on this trust. I'm going to go in front of the zoning board to try and get a relief from paying for this. I think it's unjust to single out businesses in town to force us to pay for parking when it's not done correctly amongst the township. It's not done through other businesses. I have a 3,800 square foot restaurant combined of the 2 restaurants that I own, which are Teresa's Cafe and Teresa's Next Door Bar. Boathouse, which is next to me, which is 3,600 square feet, has 20 parking spaces to get their zoning approval. Other restaurants throughout the township that are grandfathered, so-called grandfathered, meaning Great American Pub, which has expanded twice and added 40 outdoor seats, does not pay for any parking. Okay. My point is, I will speak with the township. We have a meeting with the MLA later next week, or whoever's going to be speaking with us. We've been trying to talk to Dave Bayshore before, and it never came up until the last meeting when he was dismissed. We're all asking for relief from this parking. It's an undue justice for us to try and run our business. And I don't believe it's something that ever should have been done to a business. It's not a tax. I don't know what it is, but we're required to pay money towards a trust fund, along with paying taxes to run our business and real estate taxes on top of that. So I just wanted to bring it up, bring it to your attention, and it's something I think the board should look into, why we're paying towards a trust fund.
What's the name of the trust fund?
The Radnor Enhancement Trust.
Okay. Well, it sounds like something we need to take a look at.
Yeah, we will.
just for historical perspective, you wouldn't have been able to open your restaurant unless we came up with this unique idea how to provide the parking for your restaurant. You wouldn't have had your business.
But he's saying the other businesses are able to.
This was very creative at the time to get those restaurants in there because you required a certain amount of parking.
Right.
And without parking, you wouldn't have been able to open your business there because people, so it was
True,
a very.
the township allowed me to do this.
It was a very creative way at that time. Maybe we have to revisit it now, but it was a very creative way to get the vitality of Wayne and get your restaurants and other successful restaurants in there to help the vitality of town, and we appreciate that. Maybe we should look at it, but you know what the perspective was. You wouldn't have been able to open your business if someone didn't come up with this idea.
None of the restaurants in town would be open at this
That's
time.
right. I just wanted to put that on the
It would all
record.
be
That's all.
merchants or whatever else would
That's
go in those
right.
businesses that
I
would work
understand
with
that.
the zoning in the township.
Yes.
To give you a history on this, 1997, I opened my restaurant. I went to the township zoning board. I think I came to the commissioners at one point and asked for some way to get my restaurant open because where I'm at, there is very little parking. We have spaces behind us, but it's only for employees, 4 spaces. It's all metered up and down North Wayne Avenue. I came with the suggestion of doing valet parking, which we're doing now. The township said no. So we came back and asked for if there's a way we could use the parking lot at AT&T. At that time, it was just AT&T. Wayne Business Association ran that parking lot. In 2000, it was taken away from the Wayne Business Association by the township. Whoever, I don't know who took it over or why, all of a sudden we had to pay what was $10 a space, double to $20 a space. We were required to pay towards a trust fund. That parking lot, I was told by Mike Flagg, when Mike Flagg was running this, that parking lot was for our nighttime usage for restaurants. The sign on that parking lot says free parking at nighttime. During the day, we were supposed to not park there, not our employees, not our customers. Our customers can't park there. It's permit. We would have to hand a permit to every customer that parked there. Okay? And then it was over-leased. That lot has 104 or 105 spots. To date is leased out, from what I understand, between 185 and 205 spots are leased out in that lot. Okay? Yes, I would not have been able to open my business. But think about what all these restaurants have done to this town, how much business they've brought into this town. We don't single out other businesses because they have 5,000, 6,000 square feet, may have a couple parking spaces. Would you rather it be office? Would you rather it be small retail or businesses that bring a lot of revenue into this town? My business brings a lot of revenue into this town. To date, between the parking and taxes that I've paid to this township since 1997 is $92,000. Majority of that is $48,000 I've paid towards parking. $48,000. Imagine if it was your business there trying to just run a business. I'm a resident here. I wanted to start a good business here, but I was forced into this. Okay? And it's to the point now where we need to do something about it and look into why am I paying into a trust fund? Why is it not billed by the township? Why is it not a tax? When we originally did it, it was voluntary on my part to lease from the Wayne Business Association. The township saw it as a way of making more money for this township, I believe. And they took the space over and doubled the price of it and told me no matter what I say, I need to use that lot. My landlord is Ernest Ida. He has a space down the street from me, the old library parking lot that is empty at night. I went to Mike Flagg and I said, can I use this lot? It's closer than the AT&T lot. He told me, no, it'll affect your zoning, we'll shut you down. So I'm still stuck paying this. And on top of it, I'm paying valet parking, which will run me approximately $8,000 to $9,000 a year. That's why it's going to drop. We cannot keep doing it. We're not a big business. We run on very, very small percentages compared to most businesses. So just wanted to bring it up.
Well, I'm glad you brought that to our attention. Obviously, things have changed over time, and I think we have to reevaluate this parking lot, this trust fund, and the entire downtown parking process.
Yes. There's a lot of other issues that go along with this, but I thought I'd just simplify it and bring it up to you. I will hopefully meet with Dan Malloy next week or whoever's going to be meeting with us going over
I was going to say,
issues.
the lady who was here earlier, is it Diane Jorley, is it? Diane Jorley? She's I think the president of the WBA.
And actually, Ron Evans, who is
We've
the
spoken
parking
with,
czar.
Okay.
I've spoken with him also. I have spoken with him. We were trying to do this through the township, directly through the township and not bring it up to the board, but at this time, it's been over a month. And it all came about, I was here one night where I spoke with Dave Ashore when everything happened with letting him go that night. So I've kind of let it go. But I have a bill that was due March 15th for the parking lot of $2,000 some odd, and I decided to not pay it and to speak with somebody about this first before I continue paying in something that I think is just unjust.
Well, why don't you introduce yourself to Mr. Granger on the way out? He's sitting in the back there. He's the new interim manager.
Sure.
Obviously, this is a major issue for you and the other businesses, and we'd like to get him involved and you involved, and we'll have a discussion as to how best to approach it.
Sure.
I think it might be an appropriate time to have Mac McCoy, who's been involved with the Gateway Enhancement Trust since its inception, to come in and talk to us about this, to give us some perspective from his point of view, because I know there's a long history about this. This thing was here long before I arrived. I think even before Bill arrived, perhaps.
No.
But it just
it was not around at the time when I opened my business in 1997.
Yeah, but the point is that there is a long history to this thing.
Yes.
That I'm not aware of all the history. I know some parts of it, but I think Mac, who was there at the very beginning, is probably the best person to give us some kind of an overview.
We have asked Mac about the money coming in and the money going out, where it goes. We were not able to get an answer.
It goes into a trust for enhancements, and we do things along the pike, just so you know where the money goes.
Oh, I know where it supposedly goes, towards 476 area and
the clock in
streetlights
downtown
and
Wayne.
downtown.
They've done a lot of things with that money to enhance the gateway into Radnor, and that's what the money's been used for.
But should the zoning force me to pay money towards a trust to run my business?
That's right.
Well,
no, I'm not saying it should. But
I mean, we could
what
have
we're
a fund
saying-
set up
what
to do that for.
What we're saying is, it was set up to give you an opportunity to open your business that would not have been there before if they hadn't done that.
But it's also not done correctly either. As how many other restaurants are in town, if you're grandfathered, you'd never have to pay
Right,
towards
it's
it.
not consistent,
Other
so-
businesses, Weicker
That's
Realtor,
zoning law, and there's a
it
lot of
goes
issues.
on and
And I'm
on.
not saying it's perfect. Don't get me wrong, but it was done for a reason, to give businesses like yours an opportunity to open in a tough zoning area where you're going to bring in a lot of people, need a lot of parking. So they got creative. They put together a trust for the gateway enhancement, and the money's been used for a lot of nice things to make Radnor's gateways look better. Is it perfect? Should it be relooked at? It's not perfect, and it should be relooked at. I agree.
And I hope the board also looks at what we're doing with the valet. We would like to continue doing the valet, but the problem we have is funding towards it. I think it should be looked at township-wide, either valet or obviously parking lot, which we've all talked about, deck parking or something. Even the possibility of using that current lot at AT&T for a deck lot, it's leased at $1 a year by the township, that lot that we're all paying for.
This is the AT&T lot, Mike?
This is the AT&T lot.
Yeah.
I know there's restrictions on zoning and
Yeah,
everything
I mean,
for there, but
AT&T
it's a thought of the valet company could go in and run that lot and actually use it for our customers to park there.
Are you talking about the Bellevue lot? Or are you
Yes,
talking
Bellevue.
about the other 18 lot?
No, the back lot I heard was turned down. The front lot where the Bellevue is,
Right.
from what I understand, it's leased by the township for $1 a year. Why could not the valet company go in there, run that lot, instead of us doing it with permit parking, run it as a stack where they stack the cars in and run it as a valet parking where our customers could actually use that lot. Right now it's reserved for all the employees, which is good. It gets the employees off the street. But if we force our employees to use that valet during the day and then also stack cars in there, more cars could go in there besides just employees. Customers do not go in that lot at night because they don't know they're allowed to park there. It says in large print, permit parking. In small print, unlit at night, it's free parking. They can't even see it. And they do not use that lot at night.
Well, Mike, what you're also highlighting, though, is the significant parking problem that we have and have had for decades in North Wayne, I mean, in that portion of the business district. And we have had fits and starts on the idea of an actual parking garage between the church and the senior center. I mean, we had negotiations back in the 90s with SEPTA and Wayne Presbyterian Church. SEPTA dropped out of those negotiations at one point. The whole deal fell apart. We've reconvened several times with the church on this issue, And the cost of a parking garage, I'll tell you, is, I mean, you think we got deficit problems now. You put a parking garage in, it'll be astronomical.
From what I understand, the police department applied for a grant for $5 million towards a parking garage,
Have we
which
done?
I don't know that anything has come out of that, but
Have
from
we
what I
gotten
understand.
anywhere with it, Joe? Yeah?
I'm not aware of any grant that the police department applied for to investigate the feasibility of a parking garage.
Okay,
I think Mr. Ellis might be referring to a grant we put with Sestack's office in the last 6 weeks or so.
Yeah, okay.
I understand it,
But
that you
that's-
tried to do this over many years. I've
Yeah,
listened to it all, too.
And one of the problems that you run into is that, and correct me if I'm wrong, Bob, when you have a restaurant, there are certain parking regulations associated with a restaurant which other businesses don't have, only because you have people coming to sit down for a meal for a certain period of time, and therefore I believe that restaurants generally require more parking. Is that not correct,
Yes.
Bob?
Yes, Mr. Mahoney, that's correct.
So as a result of that, if we strictly applied the parking regulation, there wouldn't be any restaurants in Wayne.
There wouldn't be.
There wouldn't.
I wouldn't be here to this day if they,
So,
if they
I
hadn't
mean-
done what they had done in the beginning.
So shifting parking from there over to the Bellevue lot and things of that nature, it's really kind of an artifice to allow you to operate your business. But I think they're raising very good points, and we ought to review this situation, review the parking generally.
Okay, thank you.
Any other public participation?
I wanted to clarify that point, Tom. I did not in my statement state that the housing component was in the resolution for his resignation. I said the two charges that were levied against Dave Bayshore, based on what was in the public meetings, it actually made it to Channel 6 and in the Inquirer. Just let me finish, please. That Dave Bayshore awarded himself a loan. My only point is this. I'm not placing blame. I'm just saying that the way this played out and the way it actually got into the press, I feel was very, very unfair. And I'm not here to blame
Okay.
you. I know you're in
Well,
a tough
you're-
position.
well,
I'm just saying that I read the Inquirer, and it stated Dave Bayshore awarded himself a loan for his house.
Okay. Well,
I understand you didn't say that, but because of the way this unfolded, it just played out unfairly. So
Well,
here's a copy of this. You could read it.
I'm just going to respond to it. Number one, obviously, we don't control what's in the newspapers. We don't control what's in the media. However,
No, but you can control how you
excuse me.
put things forth in
No,
meetings like this.
no.
You can't control how you put things forward in meetings like this?
We don't control the media,
No,
okay?
you
Excuse me, let me
control
finish.
how you
Excuse
present.
me, I'm going to finish now, okay? Don't interrupt me.
Okay.
We don't control the media,
Right.
okay? We can't control what they print, but we can control what we put in the resolution, which is very fact-specific, excuse me, is very fact-specific. Those are the only charges that this board has levied against Mr. Bayshore. What is in the resolution calling for his removal.
In a public meeting, you grilled him about that employment contract.
No, I didn't grill
Correct.
him about
It was
an
not even
employment
brought up.
contract. Number one. Number two.
I was at home watching it.
Okay, I'm not going to debate it with you, okay?
Excuse
Mr.
me.
Cosenza,
Excuse me, Mr.
Cosenza,
Mahoney,
excuse me.
can you ask Mr. Mahoney
no,
why he
excuse
brought
me.
this up at the-
I am controlling the meeting
I'm
here,
asking you a
okay?
question. Can you
I'm
ask
not-
Mr. Mahoney why he brought that
No,
up?
I'm not going to ask him that. I'm going to tell you
Okay.
that the only charges that have been levied by this board are in the resolution, period. I respectfully request that you read the resolution, and that will set forth exactly the reasons why Mr. Bayshore has been removed, period. That's
Okay, but
it.
my statement dealt with two things. One is how you, as the Board of Commissioners, present things to the public, and the resolution. The issue with the employment contract, obviously, you guys weren't on the same page. I know you won't ask Mr. Mahoney right now, but in either the previous meeting or the first meeting where this was being discussed in public, Mr. Mahoney brought up the fact that there was confusion amongst the Board of Commissioners, and that's why Dan Malloy was asked about the minutes. This all played out in the public arena.
Mr. Cosenza, you're not understanding me. The only thing that
No,
this
I'm
board-
not understanding you. I'm
Okay.
going to a different thing.
Okay.
You're switching
Well-
back. You want to just deal with the resolution. I'm not
Because the
talking about
resolution is what this board has said.
So the
are
board has no
factual- excuse me.
responsibility. I'm not talking about the resolution. That
Well,
point
the
is done.
resolution
I
is the
said-
only thing that's relevant with regard to Mr. Bayshore's status. The resolution is the factual and the legal basis for Mr. Bayshore's removal. And that was done publicly because it had to be done publicly, under the charter.
So you grilling him on all these issues in public is not relevant?
Well, my discussion with Mr. Bayshore back on February 23rd, frankly, was a byproduct of a couple things. One, Mr. Bayshore had stopped returning my phone calls prior to that meeting. I had asked Mr. Bayshore to respond to me on different items regarding financial issues, and he stopped returning my phone calls. I had an opportunity to talk to Mr. Bayshore in a public meeting because I couldn't get the information that I requested offline. I asked him questions specifically related to the agenda items, and the answers speak for themselves.
Okay.
With regard to
I would
the
just
board's
respect-
decision,
okay.
excuse me, with regard to the board's decision to remove Mr. Bayshore, that was done after Mr. Bayshore was given an opportunity to resign. And he did not take that opportunity and has not yet taken that opportunity. The board has no alternative but to follow the charter, which requires a public meeting to lay out the facts as to why we are requesting his removal. We've done that. He has now requested a public meeting to respond, and we've scheduled that. And that's required by the charter.
Okay. I still think you have a responsibility to the residents to conduct yourself in a more appropriate manner at public meetings. Thank you. Good night.
You're entitled to your opinion. Any other public participation?
With regard to, my name is Christina Peroni. With regard to the new township manager, if he could add to his list, I know we've talked about having new auditors in, and I believe the charter calls for getting new auditors every 3 years, and was hoping that that could be another request for proposal that we put out there so that we, get a fresh set of eyes, which we all clearly believe we need. Is that something that's already in the works? Because I heard Amy refer to an audit. Is that already happening, or is this the forensic audit? Just earlier tonight.
No, she talked about a request for proposal regarding the banking services.
No, you said something about the audit. You said you're doing an audit.
Oh, she's talking about the annual audit that's already underway. Is that right?
That's currently underway, but that was also, we go out to bid for auditing services every 3 years. That was scheduled to occur and will occur in the fall, late summer, early fall. So we will be continuing with that as well.
Okay. And the forensic audit that we talked about a couple of meetings ago, is that going to be a different company?
Yes.
That does? That's
Yes,
a whole
entirely
different company. A whole different company,
Yes.
not those auditors. And is
Correct.
that something that we're working on?
Yes.
Getting out there. So we're doing a request for proposal?
Well, we are following a process to interview some audit companies who have been recommended to us.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Good evening. Mike Simmons, President of the Employee Association. I just wanted to mention one thing that Mr. Fisher had mentioned earlier, talking about our pension and it being underfunded. That was one of the issues that myself and Lou Lynch and other members of the committee have brought over the last 5 years of being on that committee. It's not a new issue. It shouldn't be surprising to anybody. They were only putting back the minimum that they were required to over the last years. It was always an issue that was brought up, and I figure this is how it's gone with other stuff now. I'm a little bit disappointed. And hopefully we can move forward. And I heard that we're going to add a board member to our committee, which would be great. Because we have to address those issues, but we also have to remember that this was something that was brought up. And I guess I don't know what the answer is to it, but over 5 years ago, Lou and I had brought it up, and other members of the committee, on how only a minimum was put back into our pension, nothing more. And we never was addressed, so this shouldn't be a shock to anyone. Thank you.
Actually, Amy, could you just comment on what the MMO is so everyone knows?
I just wanted to say we are audited every year. The pension plans are audited. There's a state mandated funding level that must be achieved, and the township has achieved that level. It's in the 90+% for each fund, which is a highly desirable funding level in the pension plans. The MMO is the minimum municipal obligation that has to be put in each year to keep the plans funded at those levels. So that's why the calculation changes each year to keep that funding level. So that's mandated by the Commonwealth.
Any other public participation? Hearing none?
Second.
Hold on.
A totally different topic. James Schneller, St. David's. The Eagle Scout project is a matter that is much more sorely needed for this township behind this apartment building here. I know I shouldn't just rush in here and talk about a topic, but it reminded me, the apartment building that borders between the township building and Radnor Chester Road has a 20-foot embankment. And over the 3 years that the bike trail's been in existence, the one path for the couple hundred people in that apartment building is just a sliding, slippery slope, and I don't want the township to have any liability. I thought I'd point out a glaring situation that could arise.
Thanks. Thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
Second call, boys?
We're adjourned.
Oh, yeah.